Understanding the fear of speaking English. Many people around the world are eager to learn and speak English, as it has become a global language for communication, business, and education. Yet, a significant number of learners experience fear and hesitation when it comes to actually using the language, especially in front of others. This fear, commonly known as English-speaking anxiety, can prevent learners from making progress and achieving their goals. The reasons for this fear are varied and deeply rooted in personal, social, and cultural factors. In this story, we will explore these causes in detail, divided into sections ranging from basic to advanced concepts. Each section will include examples to illustrate the challenges and solutions. Table of contents, beginner's struggles, fear of making mistakes, intermediate challenges, social anxiety and judgment, advanced levels, the fear of complex conversations, cultural and psychological factors, practical examples and solutions. Conclusion: overcoming the fear. 1. Beginner's struggles. Fear of making mistakes. Explanation: for beginners, the fear of making mistakes is the primary reason they avoid speaking English. They worry about mispronouncing words, using incorrect grammar, struggling to find the right vocabulary. These fears stem from a lack of confidence and the misconception that speaking perfectly is more important than communication. Example: Maria, a 25-year-old from Spain, has just started learning English. She wants to ask for directions in English, but hesitates because she isn't sure how to structure the question. Instead of saying, "Where's the nearest bus stop?" she thinks she might say, "Where bus stop nearest?" She feels embarrassed and decides not to ask at all. Solution: accept mistakes. Learners should focus on communicating their message rather than being perfect. Practice daily. Speaking a few sentences in front of a mirror or with a friend can build confidence. Use simple phrases. Start with basic expressions like, "Excuse me," or "I need help." 2. Intermediate challenges. Social anxiety and judgment. Explanation: at the intermediate level, learners often face social anxiety. They fear being judged by others, especially native speakers or fluent individuals. This anxiety can be worsened by negative experiences, e.g., being laughed at, feeling intimidated by fluent speakers, comparing themselves to others. Example: Ahmed, a 30-year-old from Egypt, works in an international company. During a meeting, his boss asks him to explain his project in English. Ahmed knows the content well, but stammers because he's afraid his colleagues will mock his accent. After the meeting, he avoids speaking in English altogether. Solution: build a supportive environment. Practice with understanding friends or join language clubs where mistakes are encouraged as part of learning. Focus on communication. Remember, even native speakers make mistakes. Celebrate small wins. Praise yourself for every attempt, no matter how small. 3. Advanced levels. The fear of complex conversations. Explanation: even advanced learners can experience fear when faced with complex discussions, such as debates or professional presentations. The fear often arises from lack of specialized vocabulary, difficulty understanding regional accents or slang, pressure to sound fluent and articulate. Example: Jin, a marketing manager from South Korea, is fluent in English. However, during a conference in London, he struggles to keep up with a fast-paced discussion full of idiomatic expressions like hit the ground running or thinking outside the box. He feels out of his depth and avoids contributing to the conversation. Solution: learn context. Specific vocabulary. Focus on phrases and jargon relevant to your field. Ask for clarification. It's okay to say, "Can you explain what that means?" Listen. Actively. Watch movies, listen to podcasts, and practice understanding different accents. Fourth, cultural and psychological factors. Explanation. Cultural norms and psychological barriers play a significant role in English-speaking anxiety. For example, in some cultures, making mistakes publicly is seen as shameful. Introverted personalities may find it harder to speak up. Previous negative experiences can lead to a fear of repeating them. Example: Asha, a student from India, feels nervous about speaking English in front of her American classmates. In her culture, teachers corrected mistakes harshly, making her self-conscious. Even though her classmates are kind, she struggles to overcome this fear. Solution: reframe mistakes. View errors as learning opportunities rather than failures. Practice in safe spaces. Join supportive online communities or practice one-on-one with a tutor. Develop a growth mindset. Believe that improvement is possible with effort, practical examples, and solutions. Here are some common scenarios and strategies to overcome fear. Scenario 1. Ordering food at a restaurant. Fear: pronouncing the dish name wrong. Solution: look up the menu items in advance and practice saying them. Scenario 2. Participating in group discussions. Fear: not being able to keep up. Solution: prepare a few key points beforehand and practice them. Scenario 3. Talking to a native speaker. Fear: not understanding their accent. Solution: politely ask them to repeat or speak slower. "I'm sorry, can you say that again?" Lila's journey, from fear to confidence. Chapter 1. The beginning of the struggle. Lila, a 20-year-old from a small town in India, had always admired people who spoke fluent English. She dreamed of studying abroad in the United States to pursue a degree in architecture. However, every time she tried to speak English, her voice would tremble and her mind would go blank. Her fear started during her school days. She vividly remembered the time her teacher had corrected her harshly in front of the class when she mispronounced the word architecture as architecture. The laughter of her classmates echoed in her mind for years. That single incident convinced her that she wasn't good enough to speak English. Despite this, her dream of studying abroad burned brightly. She knew she had to confront her fears. Chapter 2. A push in the right direction. Lila's journey began when her friend Priya introduced her to an online English-speaking group. At first, Lila was reluctant to join. She worried about being judged by strangers. But Priya reassured her, saying, "Everyone in the group is learning, just like you. It's a safe space." On her first day, Lila joined a video call with 7 other learners from different countries. The group leader, a cheerful woman named Maria, welcomed everyone and encouraged them to introduce themselves. When it was Lila's turn, her heart pounded. Her introduction was halting and full of pauses. "My name is Lila. I want to learn English for study in America." To her surprise, no one laughed. Instead, Maria smiled and said, "Great start, Lila. You're brave to speak on your first day. Keep it up." Chapter 3: Learning Through Mistakes. Over the next few weeks, Lila began to participate more actively. She made mistakes almost every time she spoke, but Maria and the group were supportive. One day, during a discussion about hobbies, Lila said, "I like to play cricket with my brothers." Maria gently corrected her. "That's great, Lila." We say, "I like playing cricket." No two here. Instead of feeling embarrassed, Lila felt grateful. She realized that every mistake was an opportunity to learn. Chapter 4: Building Confidence in Real-Life Situations. After gaining some confidence in the online group, Lila decided to practice English in her daily life. Here's how she tackled real-life situations. Shopping at the market. Lila started small. When buying vegetables, she asked the vendor in English, "How much for 1 kilo of tomatoes?" The vendor, though not fluent himself, responded in a mix of English and her native language. This small success boosted her morale. Watching movies and mimicking dialogues, Lila began watching English movies with subtitles. She repeated phrases aloud, mimicking the characters' accents and intonations. Her favorite was "The Pursuit of Happiness." She practiced saying, "Don't ever let someone tell you that you can't do something," over and over, until it sounded natural. Joining a local meetup group. Lila discovered a local group of English learners in her town. They met every weekend to practice conversational English. Here, she made new friends and learned practical phrases like, "Could you please repeat that?" and "I didn't catch that. Can you say it again?" Chapter 5: Facing the big test months of practice paid off when Lila was invited to her university admissions interview. The interview was conducted online, and Lila was nervous but determined. She prepared by rehearsing common questions. She practiced answers to questions like, "Why do you want to study here?" and "What are your career goals?" Recording. Herself, Lila recorded her responses to check her pronunciation and clarity. Practicing deep breathing. To calm her nerves, she practiced breathing exercises before the interview. When the day arrived, Lila felt ready. The interview began with a friendly question. "Can you tell us a little about yourself?" Lila smiled and said confidently, "My name is Lila. I come from a small town in India, and I have always been passionate about architecture. I admire how it combines art and science to create spaces that inspire people." The interviewers were impressed. Lila stumbled once or twice, but instead of panicking, she calmly corrected herself. At the end of the interview, one of the panelists said, "You have great potential, Lila. Keep up the good work." Chapter 6: The Transformation. A few months later, Lila received her acceptance letter from her dream university. She couldn't believe it. Her hard work had paid off. She reflected on her journey, realizing that her success wasn't just about learning English. It was about overcoming her fears and believing in herself. Now, Lila mentors other learners in the same online group that helped her. She shares her story and encourages them, saying, "If I can do it, so can you." Chapter 7. Breaking the Fear Cycle. After her university acceptance, Lila realized that her fear wasn't just about speaking English, it was about the fear of failing or being judged. She decided to take conscious steps to break this fear cycle entirely. Step 1. Facing small fears. Every day, Lila began by challenging herself to engage in small conversations every day. For example, at the coffee shop, she confidently said, "Can I get a cappuccino, please?" When a tourist asked for directions in her town, she replied, "You go straight, then turn left at the big tree. The temple is there." Each interaction, no matter how brief, became a building block for her confidence. Step 2. Journaling about her progress. Lila kept a journal to track her progress. She wrote about her successes and challenges, noting phrases she had learned or mistakes she wanted to avoid. Writing in English helped her improve her vocabulary and grammar while reinforcing her sense of achievement. Example from her journal: "Today I spoke with a tourist from Germany. I said, 'The bus stop is near the market.' He understood me and thanked me. I feel proud because last year I would have been too scared to speak." Chapter 8. The Power of Community. Lila also understood the importance of surrounding herself with supportive people. She joined several communities that nurtured her growth, including online forums for English learners. Lila participated in discussion threads about hobbies, current events, and travel. Writing and responding in English helped her improve her written communication. Language exchange programs. Lila connected with a language buddy, Jake, from Australia. Jake was learning Hindi, so they helped each other. For 30 minutes they spoke in Hindi, and for the next 30 minutes they switched to English. Jake's casual corrections and encouragement boosted Lila's fluency. A memorable conversation. One day, Jake taught her the phrase, "What's up?" At first, Lila thought it meant looking at the sky, and they both laughed. Jake explained, "It's just a casual way to ask how someone is doing." From then on, Lila confidently greeted her friends with, "Hey, what's up?" Chapter 9. Tackling Professional English. Lila's next big challenge was improving her English for academic and professional purposes. She needed to write essays, participate in group projects, and present her ideas fluently. Step 1. Improving writing skills. Lila took an online course on academic writing. She learned how to structure essays with an introduction, body, and conclusion. Use formal phrases like "to illustrate this point" and "in conclusion." Avoid common grammar mistakes, such as confusing there, and there. Step 2. Practicing presentations. To prepare for presentations, Lila followed these steps. Write a script. She wrote down everything she wanted to say, then practiced it multiple times. Record herself. Lila recorded her presentations and listened to her pronunciation and tone. Rehearse with friends. She invited Priya and her language group to watch her practice and provide feedback. Example: presentation. For one of her university assignments, Lila presented on the role of sustainable architecture in urban planning. She used phrases like, "Today I will discuss." This data highlights that. In conclusion, sustainable architecture is essential for a greener future. Despite some minor stumbles, her professor commended her for her clarity and preparation. Chapter 10. Dealing with setbacks. Not every day was smooth sailing. There were moments when Lila felt discouraged, like struggling to understand fast-paced conversations in English, receiving critical feedback on her essay from a professor, feeling out of place when native speakers used slang she didn't know. How she overcame setbacks, embracing imperfection. Lila reminded herself that fluency was a journey, not a destination. Seeking clarification, she learned to ask, "Could you explain that term?" Or, "Can you repeat that, please?" without feeling ashamed. Learning from feedback. Instead of viewing corrections as failures, Lila saw them as opportunities to improve. Chapter 11. Inspiring others. As Lila became more confident, she started sharing her story on social media to inspire other English learners. She created videos where she shared tips like start with small goals, like introducing yourself in English. Encouraged learners by saying, "It's okay to make mistakes. That's how you grow." Showed her progress with before and after videos of her speaking. Her videos gained a following, and she became a source of motivation for thousands of learners worldwide. Helping others overcome fear. Chapter 13. Becoming a mentor. With her personal and professional life flourishing, Lila felt a deep desire to give back to the community that had supported her. She began mentoring English learners through workshops, webinars, and one-on-one coaching sessions. She believed that her own struggles had equipped her with the empathy and understanding needed to guide others. Key elements of her mentorship. Storytelling. Lila shared her own journey, emphasizing that fear is normal and progress is possible. Interactive activities. She created fun, engaging tasks such as role-playing real-life situations, e.g., booking a hotel room, practicing with tongue twisters to improve pronunciation. Personalized feedback. Lila tailored her guidance to individual learners, helping them focus on their specific challenges. Example: one of her mentees, Carlos from Brazil, was terrified of speaking in his new job. He worried about his accent and limited vocabulary. Lila encouraged him to start small, such as greeting coworkers in English or discussing simple topics like the weather. Over time, Carlos grew more confident and even gave a short presentation to his team. Chapter 14. Launching an online platform. To reach even more learners, Lila launched an online platform called Speak Freely. It offered interactive lessons, covering topics like grammar, pronunciation, and conversational skills. Live Q&A sessions. Learners could ask questions and receive instant feedback from Lila and other mentors. Community support. A forum where learners could share experiences, ask for advice, and celebrate milestones. The platform quickly became popular, with thousands of users joining from across the globe. Many credited it with transforming their fear into confidence. Chapter 15. Transforming public perception. Lila recognized that one major reason people feared speaking English was societal pressure. In many cultures, non-native speakers are judged harshly for their accents or mistakes. Lila became an advocate for changing this mindset. Her efforts included raising awareness. Through social media campaigns, she highlighted the importance of focusing on communication rather than perfection. Encouraging native speakers to be supportive, she spoke at conferences, urging native speakers to be patient and understanding when interacting with learners. Celebrating diversity in English. Lila emphasized that English is a global language with countless accents and variations, all of which are valid. Example: in one of her talks, Lila said, "English isn't just an American or British language, it belongs to everyone who speaks it. Whether you're from India, China, Nigeria, or Brazil, your accent tells your story, and that's something to be proud of." Chapter 16. The Ripple Effect. As Lila's influence grew, so did the impact of her work. The learners she mentored went on to help others in their communities, creating a ripple effect of empowerment and confidence. Example of impact. Mei, a school teacher from China, started using Lila's methods to teach her students. She encouraged them to speak English fearlessly, and within a year, her class won a regional English debate competition. Ravi, a software engineer in India, used his newfound confidence to lead international meetings at work. He later became a mentor on Lila's platform, helping others like him. Chapter 17. A Global Movement. Lila's efforts culminated in the creation of an annual event called Speak English Week. It was celebrated worldwide with activities like public speaking contests for beginners, workshops on overcoming fear and building confidence, inspirational talks from people who had successfully learned English. The event brought together millions of learners, mentors, and supporters, fostering a sense of global unity and encouragement. Chapter 18. Reflecting on the Journey. Years later, as Lila looked back on her journey, she felt immense gratitude for the challenges she had faced. Each struggle had taught her resilience, and every fear she had overcome had made her stronger. She realized that her success wasn't just about speaking English. It was about finding her voice and using it to inspire others. The final message: courage over perfection. Lila's story is a testament to the power of courage and persistence. Her journey teaches us that speaking English is a skill, not a talent. Like any skill, it improves with practice. Mistakes are proof of learning. Each mistake is a step forward. Confidence comes from action. The more you try, the less fear you'll feel. To every learner out there, Lila's advice echoes: don't wait for confidence to start speaking. Start speaking, and confidence will follow. A practical guide for learners. To conclude, here's a step-by-step guide inspired by Lila's journey. Start small. Practice basic phrases like greetings or questions. Use English in daily activities such as shopping or asking for directions. Create a safe practice space. Join language groups, online forums, or find a language buddy. Speak with understanding friends or mentors. Celebrate progress. Reward yourself for every milestone, no matter how small. Keep a journal of your achievements. Learn from mistakes. Record yourself to identify areas for improvement. View feedback as an opportunity, not criticism. Stay consistent. Dedicate time daily to practicing English. Use resources like apps, podcasts, and videos. Embrace diversity. Remember that your accent and style of speaking are unique. Focus on clarity and communication, not perfection. Chapter 19. Empowering Learners Through Stories. Lila understood that stories, much like her own, had the power to inspire others. She began collecting and sharing stories from English learners worldwide, showcasing their unique struggles and triumphs. This initiative, called Voices of Courage, became a cornerstone of her platform, encouraging learners to embrace their journey with pride. Example stories. Ahmed from Egypt. Ahmed, a taxi driver, feared speaking English with tourists. After joining Lila's online group, he practiced simple phrases like, "Where would you like to go?" and "Do you need help with directions?" Within months, he became confident, and his improved communication skills increased his income as tourists preferred his service. Sophia from Spain. Sophia, a university student, felt anxious during her first English debate competition. She prepared by practicing in front of a mirror and recording her speeches. Though she didn't win the competition, she gained the confidence to participate in international conferences, eventually earning a scholarship abroad. Rajesh from India. Rajesh worked in a factory and dreamed of becoming a supervisor, but his limited English held him back. Inspired by Lila's story, he started learning through YouTube tutorials during lunch breaks. His persistence paid off, and he was promoted within a year. Chapter 20. Lila's Golden Rules for Overcoming Fear. Lila developed a set of principles she called the Golden Rules for Speaking English with Confidence. These rules were simple yet transformative, resonating with learners worldwide. Focus on communication, not perfection. The goal is to be understood, not to sound perfect. Even native speakers make mistakes. Speak every day. Use English daily, even if only for a few minutes. Consistency is key. Turn mistakes into lessons. Every mistake is a chance to learn something new. Surround yourself with English. Watch movies, listen to podcasts, and read books or articles in English. Celebrate your accent. Your accent is part of your identity. It shows the richness of your cultural background. Ask for help. Don't hesitate to ask others to explain a word or phrase. Curiosity speeds up learning. Be patient with yourself. Fluency takes time. Celebrate small victories along the way. Chapter 21. Expanding the Vision. Lila's efforts didn't stop at individual learners. She began collaborating with educational institutions, governments, and organizations to create a more inclusive environment for English learning. Key initiatives. Community learning centers. Lila partnered with local governments to establish free community centers where learners could access resources, attend workshops, and practice with peers. Training programs for teachers. Many English teachers lack the tools to address learners' emotional barriers. Lila designed training programs to equip them with techniques to foster confidence in students. English for Employment programs. Recognizing the role of English in career advancement, Lila launched programs that focused on workplace communication, including writing professional emails, participating in meetings, handling job interviews. Chapter 22. Addressing global challenges. As her platform grew, Lila encountered challenges that required innovative solutions. Accessibility. Not all learners had internet access. To address this, Lila worked with local radio stations to broadcast English lessons. Cultural barriers. In some communities, speaking English was seen as abandoning one's native culture. Lila emphasized the idea that learning English was about expanding opportunities, not replacing one's heritage. Overcoming gender inequality. Many women faced societal restrictions that limited their ability to learn. Lila partnered with women's organizations to provide safe spaces for learning and mentoring. Chapter 23. A personal milestone. Despite her global success, Lila never stopped learning herself. One day, she was invited to deliver a keynote speech at an international education summit in London. It was the biggest stage she had ever stood on, with hundreds of educators, linguists, and policymakers in attendance. Her speech highlights: I once stood where many learners stand today, afraid, uncertain, and hesitant. But I discovered that the key to fluency is not just in grammar books or vocabulary lists, it's in believing in yourself. Our mistakes are not failures. They are stepping stones to success. Let us build a world where learning languages connects us rather than divides us. The audience gave her a standing ovation, and many approached her afterward to express how her story had inspired them. Chapter 24. The Next Generation. Lila's vision extended to the next generation of learners. She created resources specifically for children, emphasizing play and creativity to make English learning fun. Features of the children's program: interactive games, designed to teach vocabulary and grammar in a playful way. Storytime sessions, simple stories in English, often narrated by Lila herself. Pen pal programs, connecting children from different countries to practice writing and learn about each other's cultures. Her children's program became a favorite in schools worldwide, fostering early confidence in young learners. Chapter 25. Reflecting on a lifelong mission. Lila's life became a testament to the transformative power of language. From a shy girl who struggled to say a sentence in English to a global advocate for language learning, she had come full circle. Her work had touched millions of lives, proving that fear can be overcome with determination, support, and persistence. As she sat in her home office, surrounded by thank you letters from learners around the world, she smiled. Her journey wasn't just about learning English, it was about finding her voice and helping others find theirs. Final words: the journey never ends. Lila's story reminds us that learning a language is more than acquiring a skill. It's a journey of self-discovery and empowerment. No matter where you are on this path, remember, you are not alone. Every small step matters. Your voice deserves to be heard.
How to talk to people in English. A comprehensive guide. Talking to people in English involves more than vocabulary and grammar. Confidence, empathy, and conversational flow are just as important. Here we'll explore how to build these skills step by step so that you feel comfortable and confident speaking English with anyone. 1. Building conversational confidence. Overcoming language anxiety. If you're nervous about speaking English, know that you're not alone. Many people experience anxiety when learning a new language. Here's how to address it. Visualize success. Before a conversation, take a moment to imagine the conversation going well. Picture yourself speaking confidently and fluently. Visualizing success can reduce stress and build self-assurance. Use familiar phrases to start. Memorize a few simple, versatile phrases like, "It's nice to meet you," "I hope your day is going well," or "What do you think about?" Starting with phrases you've practiced can make the beginning of a conversation feel easier. Self-monitor in a positive way. If you feel nervous, be mindful of your thoughts. Avoid negative self-talk like, "I'll never get this right." Instead, say to yourself, "This is a learning opportunity," or "Everyone makes mistakes." Practice exercise. Write down 5 phrases you can use to start a conversation, and practice saying them out loud daily. Practicing repeatedly will make them feel natural, so you can rely on them during real conversations. 2. Expanding vocabulary. Beyond basic words. Having a varied vocabulary is essential to expressing yourself clearly. But memorizing lists isn't enough. You need practical, applicable vocabulary. Learn synonyms for common words. Start with words you use daily and learn 2 or 3 synonyms. For example, instead of always saying happy, you might use joyful, content, or pleased. Using synonyms can make your language richer and help avoid repetition. Focus on verbs and phrasal verbs. English often uses phrasal verbs like look up to, come across, or put off. Learning these adds depth to your language and allows you to sound more natural. Practice descriptive vocabulary. For social situations, words related to emotions, appearance, and actions are particularly useful. Learn words like thrilled, upset, awkward, casual, and fascinating to describe feelings, people, and situations. Practice exercise. Each week, choose 10 new words and write sentences using each one. Then, challenge yourself to use those sentences in real conversations throughout the week. 3. Active listening. Improving your comprehension skills. Good conversation is a two-way street. Active listening is just as crucial as speaking because it makes others feel valued and encourages them to open up. Here's how to listen more effectively. Summarize what you've heard. After someone shares a thought, summarize it briefly to show you're paying attention. For example, "So, you're saying that," or "It sounds like you felt." This technique shows that you're genuinely engaged. Listen for keywords and tone. Sometimes the words people emphasize can tell you a lot about how they feel. If someone says, "I'm really busy right now," the emphasis on really signals that they might be stressed. Pay attention to these nuances. Limit your responses. Avoid interrupting. Let the other person complete their thoughts before you respond. If you think of something to say while they're talking, wait until they're finished. Practice exercise. When watching English shows or movies, pause after each scene and summarize what just happened. This can help you practice listening for main ideas and remembering details. 4. Asking open-ended questions. Deepening conversations, learning how to ask open-ended questions, can transform your conversations from basic exchanges to meaningful discussions. Use what and how questions. Questions like, "How was your day?" or "What do you enjoy about your work?" Allow people to elaborate, whereas questions like, "Did you have a good day?" can be answered with a simple yes or no. Encourage storytelling. If someone shares a small detail, ask them to tell you more. For instance, if they say, I went hiking over the weekend, you can say, what was the best part of the hike? Practice active curiosity, show genuine interest. Instead of moving to the next topic, stay on the current one. For example, if someone mentions a recent trip, explore that further by asking what they enjoyed, what surprised them, or where they went. Practice exercise. Prepare 3 open-ended questions before meeting someone. Practice using them in conversation and see how they encourage others to share more details. 5. Managing nervousness. Overcoming fear of speaking. For many learners, nervousness can make speaking difficult. To manage nerves, it helps to focus on the moment rather than worrying about mistakes. Mindfulness techniques. Practicing mindfulness helps to focus your attention on the present rather than worrying about what you'll say next. Techniques like deep breathing and grounding exercises can reduce anxiety. Acknowledge your feelings. Instead of trying to push away nervousness, acknowledge it. Remind yourself, it's okay to feel nervous and it will pass. Slow down and embrace. Pauses. Nervousness often makes people rush. Practice speaking slowly and use pauses naturally in conversation. Pauses make you seem confident and help you organize your thoughts. Practice exercise. Before speaking, take 3 deep breaths to center yourself. Practicing this technique daily can help you handle nervousness when talking to others. 6. Enhancing small talk. Making casual conversations. Effortless. Small talk is essential for building rapport and transitioning to deeper topics. Here's how to get comfortable with it. Discuss common interests. Start with universally relatable topics like weather, current events, or shared activities. For example, I heard there's a new movie in town. Have you seen it yet? Compliments as conversation starters. Compliments make people feel valued and open up. For instance, I love your scarf. Is it from a recent trip? Share light. Personal details. If someone mentions something, try adding a relevant personal experience. For example, if they talk about a new restaurant, mention one you recently visited. Practice exercise. Write down 5 small talk topics you can use. Practice them with different people throughout the week to feel more comfortable and natural with these kinds of conversations. 7. Developing deeper conversations. Going beyond small talk. To create meaningful connections, try these tips for more substantial conversations. Focus on their emotions. Notice how people feel about what they're saying. Respond with empathy by acknowledging their emotions, like, that sounds exciting, or I can see why that was tough. Share thoughtful insights. After listening, share a related experience or viewpoint to add depth to the conversation. Avoid just agreeing. Instead, share something meaningful. Allow for silence. Pauses aren't a bad thing. Give the person time to think. Silence can be powerful, especially when discussing deeper topics. Practice exercise. Next time someone shares something personal, practice responding empathetically. Reflect their emotions back to them and observe how this changes the tone of the conversation. 8. Expanding idioms and expressions. Sounding natural. Idioms and expressions help you sound fluent. Use them thoughtfully to add natural flavor to your conversations. Focus on 1 idiom a week. Instead of memorizing many at once, pick 1 useful idiom and use it throughout the week. For example, break the ice can be used in many contexts when talking about meeting new people. Understand cultural contexts. Idioms don't always translate literally. Know when to use them by watching shows or talking with native speakers. For example, hit the nail on the head is often used to compliment someone's accuracy. Practice exercise, find 5 idioms or phrases, and write down sentences using each. Practice them in casual conversations to see how they fit naturally. 9. Avoiding pitfalls in conversation. Here are some common mistakes to avoid and how to navigate them. Avoiding one-sided conversations. Engage in two-way exchanges rather than just talking about yourself. For example, if someone shares about their weekend, share something similar rather than changing topics abruptly. Being patient with mistakes. Don't dwell on your mistakes. If you correct yourself, keep it brief and move on. Mistakes are part of learning, and often people won't even notice. Avoiding overly complex language. Use simple language to keep conversations clear. Trying too hard to use advanced vocabulary can sometimes disrupt the flow. Practice exercise. Record yourself talking and listen for one-sided phrases or overused words. Reflect on ways to balance your responses and avoid monopolizing conversations. Building conversational memory. Recalling details in conversation. Being able to recall details from past conversations is a valuable skill. It shows the person that you're genuinely interested in them, and it helps build stronger connections. Here's how to improve your conversational memory. Practice summarizing. Conversations. After each conversation, mentally summarize the main points and anything memorable the other person mentioned. This helps retain details for future conversations. Use mnemonics for names and details. If you have trouble remembering names, associate each person's name with something unique about them. For example, Mike who loves hiking, or Sarah with the red scarf. This helps imprint details in your memory. Follow up on past topics. In future conversations, show you remembered by bringing up past details. For instance, if someone mentioned a project, ask, "How's your project going?" It demonstrates attentiveness and care. Practice exercise. After each conversation, write down 2 details you remember. Review them before the next time you see the person to refresh your memory. 11th, mastering body language. Communicating without words. Body language is just as important as words when it comes to effective communication. Nonverbal cues like eye contact, facial expressions, and gestures can make you seem more engaged and approachable. Here's how to use body language to enhance your conversations. Maintain open body posture. Stand or sit facing the person, and avoid crossing your arms, which can seem defensive. Instead, keep your arms relaxed to signal openness. Use mirroring to build rapport. Subtly mirror the other person's gestures and posture. If they lean in, you can also lean slightly forward. Mirroring can build subconscious rapport and make both of you feel more comfortable. Make consistent eye contact. Eye contact conveys confidence and interest. Don't stare, but try to meet their gaze regularly to show engagement. If eye contact is challenging, focus on the space between their eyes. Practice exercise. When talking to someone, consciously relax your posture and maintain gentle eye contact. Notice how these small changes affect the interaction. 12th, practicing with authentic resources. Immersing yourself in English. To improve naturally, immerse yourself in English as much as possible. Here's how to use authentic resources like TV shows, movies, and podcasts to practice. Watch TV shows with subtitles. Start by watching English language shows with English subtitles. Focus on how characters converse, noting phrases, slang, and cultural references. Gradually remove subtitles as you get more comfortable. Listen to English podcasts. Podcasts on topics you enjoy are a great way to practice. Listen to them while commuting, cooking, or during any spare time. Pause and repeat sentences to practice pronunciation. Engage with English news. News anchors speak clearly, making it easier to understand. Listen to short news clips and try summarizing what you heard in your own words. This helps with both comprehension and memory. Practice exercise. Pick a favorite show or podcast and write down 3 phrases or expressions you hear. Try to use these in conversations during the week. 13. Using shadowing techniques. Mimicking fluent speakers. Shadowing is a technique where you listen to a native speaker and repeat what they say immediately after, imitating their pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. It's an excellent way to build fluency. Choose short audio clips. Start with short 1 to 2 minute clips from English-speaking videos or podcasts. Listen carefully, then repeat what you hear, trying to match the speaker's tone and rhythm as closely as possible. Record and compare. Record yourself as you shadow, then listen back to compare. Notice any differences in pronunciation or intonation and adjust accordingly. Increase speed. Gradually. As you get more comfortable, choose faster or more complex audio. This helps improve your reaction time and fluency. Practice exercise. Take a 1-minute clip from a podcast, play it back, and try to shadow it 3 times. Each time, focus on a different aspect: pronunciation, speed, or intonation. 14. Understanding. Cultural context. Adapting to social nuances. Cultural awareness is key to connecting with native English speakers. Language isn't just words. It reflects cultural attitudes, etiquette, and values. Here's how to build cultural context into your language skills. Observe cultural norms in media. Notice how people in English-speaking media greet each other, handle small talk, or express disagreement. For example, English speakers often use polite language like "excuse me" or "I'm afraid" to soften negative responses. Learn the basics of politeness. English-speaking cultures value politeness and often use phrases like "please," "thank you," and "sorry." Practicing these in various contexts helps you blend into conversations smoothly. Be aware of tone and humor and sarcasm. Humor and sarcasm can vary greatly across cultures. Watch how comedians or TV show characters deliver jokes and sarcasm. This helps you understand how to respond in a lighthearted way or when humor is appropriate. Practice exercise. Watch a conversation scene from a movie or show and note down any culturally specific phrases or actions. Try using these in similar social contexts to get a feel for their use. 15. Preparing for specific social situations. Tailoring your approach. Different settings require different conversational approaches. Here's how to prepare for specific situations, whether it's a work meeting, casual gathering, or family event. Professional settings. In work environments, be concise and respectful. Use phrases like "I believe in" or "in my opinion" to present your thoughts politely. Prepare some questions to ask or topics to discuss in advance to feel more prepared. Casual gatherings. At parties or social gatherings, aim for a relaxed tone. Show curiosity by asking about hobbies, favorite movies, or recent events. In a relaxed setting, it's okay to use informal language and share more personal stories. Formal events, in formal situations like weddings or business dinners, use polite language and avoid controversial topics like politics. Stick to safe topics like family, food, and compliments to keep the mood light and respectful. Practice exercise. Identify one situation you'll be in soon, such as a work meeting or family gathering. Prepare 3 topics or questions relevant to that setting and practice saying them out loud. 16. Practicing empathy and emotional intelligence, building stronger connections. Emotional intelligence involves understanding and managing your own emotions while empathizing with others. Here's how to use it to improve your conversations. Show empathy through validation. When someone shares their feelings or concerns, show understanding by validating them. Use phrases like, "That sounds really challenging," or "I can see why you felt that way." Reflect emotions. If someone seems excited, mirror their enthusiasm with a similar energy. If they're sad or serious, maintain a gentle tone. Reflecting emotions helps the other person feel understood. Use open body language. When someone shares something sensitive, nod and lean forward slightly to show that you're engaged. Avoid crossing your arms, as this can create a physical barrier and seem unapproachable. Practice exercise. The next time someone shares a story or emotion, focus on responding empathetically. Try validating their feelings before adding your own thoughts. 17. Joining conversation groups or language exchanges. Practicing with real people. Practicing with real people is one of the most effective ways to improve conversational skills. Many cities and online platforms offer English-speaking groups and exchanges. Seek out language exchange partners. Find a partner who wants to learn your language in exchange for practicing English with you. This creates a balanced, supportive environment. Join English meetup groups. Many communities have meetups specifically for English conversation. These groups provide a safe space to practice and often include activities like games or group discussions. Participate in online language platforms. Websites like Tandem, HelloTalk, and conversation apps connect you with native English speakers for virtual practice. You can schedule sessions or chat casually as you improve. Practice exercise. Search for a local or online conversation group and join a session. Aim to participate actively by asking questions and responding thoughtfully to others. 18. Setting long-term goals and tracking progress. Finally, set realistic goals to measure your improvement. Language learning is a gradual process, so tracking small wins will keep you motivated. Set SMART goals. Define specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. For example, I want to be able to hold a 10-minute conversation with a native speaker by the end of the month. Track progress with a language journal. Keep a journal to note new words, phrases, and daily speaking experiences. Review it regularly to see how much you've improved. Celebrate small victories. Did you hold a conversation without pausing? Understand a podcast without subtitles? Celebrate these wins. There are important milestones on your journey. Practice exercise. Write down a specific conversation goal for the week, like ask someone about their weekend and respond with follow-up questions. At the end of the week, review your progress and note any improvements. Practicing self-correction, improving as you speak. As you gain more practice speaking English, one of the most valuable skills is learning to self-correct without interrupting the flow of conversation. Here's how to do it smoothly. Pause, briefly, and rephrase. If you realize you've made a mistake, pause for a second, then rephrase the sentence. For example, if you say, I go to the store yesterday, quickly correct yourself with, I went to the store yesterday. Focus on one area at a time. If you're aware of common mistakes you make, like verb tenses or prepositions, pay attention to them one at a time. For instance, focus on using the correct past tense in each conversation until it becomes natural. Don't overcorrect. Correcting yourself once is fine, but avoid getting too hung up on every small error. Most people won't even notice, so just focus on making gradual improvements. Practice exercise. Record yourself speaking about a topic for a few minutes. Listen to the recording and note any areas for improvement. Then practice rephrasing those sentences out loud. 20. Developing your own go-to. Topics and stories. Having a few topics and stories that you're comfortable discussing can be a huge confidence booster in conversation. These can act as a backup when you're unsure what to talk about. Identify your interests and experiences. Think about topics you're passionate about or experiences that are interesting. It could be travel, a memorable event, or a favorite hobby. Prepare short stories. Develop a few brief stories you can tell with ease. For instance, if you love hiking, prepare a story about a recent hike you enjoyed. Practice it so that it feels natural. Use these stories to steer conversations. When there's a lull in conversation, bring up one of your go-to topics. For example, I went hiking last weekend and the views were incredible. Do you like hiking? Practice exercise. Choose 2 or 3 topics you enjoy talking about. Practice describing them out loud or even writing them down to build fluency in these areas. 21. Expanding your range of expressions. Learning variations for politeness and emphasis. Learning multiple ways to say the same thing helps keep conversations interesting and prevents repetition. It also allows you to adjust your tone based on formality. Learn alternative greetings and farewells. Instead of always saying, hello, how are you? Try, hi there, how's it going? Or, good to see you. Similarly, vary goodbyes with take care or catch you later. Experiment with phrases for politeness. In English, there are many ways to politely ask for something or make a suggestion. For example, instead of saying, can I, you could try, would it be possible if I, or could you please? Express emotions with subtlety. For instance, instead of saying, I'm very happy, try, I'm thrilled or I'm delighted. Having options allows you to communicate your feelings more precisely. Practice exercise. Choose a phrase you commonly use and find 2 or 3 alternatives for it. Use each one in conversation to build flexibility. 22. Practicing in real-time situations. Seize opportunities in daily life. Whenever you're out and about, look for opportunities to practice English. Real-world practice is one of the most effective ways to learn. Engage in brief conversations with strangers. Try small interactions with store clerks, baristas, or colleagues. You could say something like, how's your day going? Or make a comment like, it's so sunny today. Take advantage of English-speaking events. Attend events like public lectures, workshops, or language exchange meetups. These gatherings offer rich opportunities for conversation practice. Travel, if possible. If you're able, visit an English-speaking country or area. Immersion is one of the best ways to accelerate language skills and gain comfort speaking. Practice exercise. Set a daily goal to speak with at least one person in English, even if it's just a brief greeting or question. Track your progress each day to build consistency. 23rd, practicing reflection. After each conversation, reflecting on your conversations is a great way to grow and improve. This process helps you recognize what went well and what you could improve for next time. Identify strengths and weaknesses. After a conversation, take a moment to think about what went well. Did you stay calm, use new vocabulary, or make fewer mistakes? Then consider one area to work on next time. Celebrate small successes. Even small wins like using a new word or keeping a conversation going longer are worth celebrating. This positive reinforcement helps build confidence. Set mini goals for the next time. Based on your reflection, set one small goal for your next conversation. It could be something simple like ask a follow-up question or speak a little more slowly. Practice exercise. After each conversation, jot down 3 things you did well and 1 area for improvement. Reflect on these notes to track your progress over time. 24. Developing patience and enjoying the process. Finally, learning to talk comfortably in English is a journey that requires patience. Don't rush the process. Instead, enjoy each conversation as a new experience and an opportunity to learn. Be patient with mistakes. Language learning is a process, and mistakes are natural. Embrace them as a part of learning, and remember that each mistake brings you closer to fluency. Celebrate progress regularly. Every milestone, no matter how small, deserves recognition. Each time you have a conversation without hesitating or use a new phrase, take a moment to appreciate your growth. View conversations as opportunities, not tests. Rather than treating each conversation as a performance, view it as a chance to learn, connect, and grow. This mindset will reduce pressure and make speaking English more enjoyable. Practice exercise. Write a language diary where you record your weekly experiences and achievements in English. Reflect on how far you've come and set positive intentions for the week ahead. Mastering intonation and emphasis. Adding expression to your speech. Intonation, or the rise and fall of pitch in speech, adds emotion and emphasis, which helps make your speech sound more natural and engaging. English speakers often rely on intonation to convey feelings and indicate when they're making a point, asking a question, or showing surprise. Here's how to master it. Practice emphasizing key words. In English, certain words in a sentence are stressed to highlight the main idea. For instance, in I really enjoy music, the word really is emphasized to show passion. Try reading sentences and intentionally emphasizing different words to hear how it changes the meaning. Use rising and falling tone for questions. English questions usually have a rising intonation, especially yes or no questions like, are you coming? Practice raising your pitch slightly at the end of questions to indicate you're expecting a response. Listen to native speakers for tone. Pay attention to how native speakers' voices rise and fall naturally, especially in emotional or exciting contexts. Mimic these patterns to build a more expressive, engaging speaking style. Practice exercise. Record yourself reading sentences with different emotions, such as excitement, surprise, or curiosity. Listen back to identify where you naturally used intonation and adjust to add even more expression. 26. Navigating difficult conversations. Staying calm and articulate. Sometimes conversations can take challenging turns, especially if misunderstandings arise. Here's how to handle these situations with poise. Stay calm and breathe. Take a deep breath before responding if you feel nervous or misunderstood. This helps you think clearly and respond calmly. Use diplomatic language. When disagreeing or clarifying, use phrases like, I see your point, but, or I understand, but have you considered? These soften your response, making it sound more polite. Ask clarifying questions. If you're unsure about someone's point, ask open ended questions like, could you explain that a bit more? Or, what do you mean by? This shows you're interested in understanding them fully. Practice exercise. Think of a recent challenging conversation and write down how you might have handled it with calmness and clarity. Practice using diplomatic language and clarifying questions to prepare for similar situations in the future. 27th, practicing visualization techniques for fluency. Visualization is a powerful tool that can help you prepare for conversations and improve your response time in English. Picture the conversation ahead of time. Before an important meeting or social event, visualize how you'd like the conversation to go. Picture yourself speaking confidently, smiling, and using new phrases you've learned. Imagine specific phrases and vocabulary. If you know the topic you'll discuss, prepare by imagining specific words or phrases you might use. This mental preparation helps you recall vocabulary faster. Rehearse in your mind. Mentally rehearse responses to questions you expect. This helps solidify sentence structures and makes you more confident during the actual conversation. Practice exercise. Before your next planned conversation, spend a few minutes visualizing it. Imagine it going well, and mentally practice what you'd say. This prepares your mind for success. 28. Using a personal language lab approach. Daily self-practice. If you're dedicated to improving rapidly, create a structured personal language lab for consistent, varied practice. Here's how. Dedicate time daily. Set aside 15 to 30 minutes daily for focused language practice with a specific goal in mind, such as improving pronunciation or learning new vocabulary. Use a mix of resources. Rotate between different tools like reading news articles, listening to podcasts, practicing shadowing, and reviewing grammar or vocabulary apps. Track your progress. Weekly. Keep a language journal where you record your learning each day. Note down new words, expressions, or any challenges you encountered. Practice exercise. Design a weekly language lab schedule with varied activities such as speaking practice on Mondays, listening practice on Tuesdays, and so on. Stick to it to see consistent improvement. 29. Building a rich vocabulary. Learning contextual and situational words. A rich vocabulary is key to expressing yourself precisely. Here's how to go beyond basic vocabulary and build a range of situational words. Learn vocabulary. In context, instead of memorizing random lists, learn words in sentences or contexts. For example, if you're learning travel vocabulary, try using words like itinerary and destination in sentences like, my itinerary includes 3 destinations. Collect synonyms and antonyms. For each new word, learn a synonym or antonym to expand your options. For instance, for happy, learn joyful and content, as well as the opposite, like sad or unhappy. Practice using new words. Immediately. Whenever you learn a new word, try to use it in a sentence the same day. Immediate use reinforces memory. Practice exercise. Pick 5 new words each week and write sentences with them. Make it a goal to use each word in conversation at least once during the week. Maintaining a growth mindset, embracing continuous learning. Finally, to sustain progress and enjoyment in learning English, cultivate a growth mindset. This mindset views challenges as opportunities and believes in the power of continuous effort. View mistakes as learning steps. Rather than feeling discouraged by mistakes, see them as a natural part of the learning process. Each one teaches you something new. Set achievable milestones. Celebrate small wins, like holding a 5-minute conversation or learning a difficult phrase. Each milestone is a sign of growth. Stay curious and open to new experiences. Language learning is a journey, not a destination. Embrace the process, stay curious, and find joy in each new expression you master. Practice exercise. Set a long-term goal, such as reach conversational fluency in 6 months. Break it down into monthly milestones like improve listening comprehension or speak with a native speaker. Celebrate each step along the way to stay motivated. Story of Lila's journey to English fluency. Lila had always dreamed of working abroad. Growing up in a small town in Morocco, she'd watch movies set in bustling English-speaking cities and imagine herself as part of that world. After years of hard work, her dream finally came true when she got a job offer in London. There was just one problem. Although she'd studied English in school, she'd never used it extensively in conversation, and now she needed to speak it daily. When she arrived in London, everything felt overwhelming. She understood English well enough to follow instructions at work, but speaking confidently was a different story. The first few days were tough. Layla struggled to keep up with her colleagues' fast-paced conversations, their British accents, and the slang they used. She found herself feeling shy and worried that her colleagues would think she was not qualified for the job. One day, after a particularly difficult meeting where she felt lost, Layla decided she needed a new approach. She remembered a piece of advice her language teacher had once given her. Think of language learning as building a house. Start with a solid foundation and add to it gradually. Determined to get better, Layla set up a plan for herself. Building confidence, step by step week. 1. Practicing self-introductions. Layla began by practicing one simple thing, introducing herself. At first, she felt silly doing this alone in her apartment, but she knew that if she could nail her introduction, it would give her a small but crucial boost of confidence. She practiced different ways to introduce herself, experimenting with intonation and adding bits about her life in Morocco. Slowly, this helped her feel more comfortable speaking up at work. When she finally introduced herself confidently to her manager in the break room, he responded warmly, asking questions about her hometown. This small interaction felt like a breakthrough moment. It was the first time Layla had successfully connected with someone in English, without feeling anxious. Week 2. Embracing visualization and preparation. Layla started to visualize upcoming conversations in her mind before they happened. If she knew she had a team meeting or would need to speak to a client, she'd imagine possible questions she might get asked and rehearse her responses. She even practiced saying them out loud while walking to the office, which made her feel more prepared. One morning, her manager asked her to give a brief update on her work progress. Thanks to her mental preparation, she knew exactly what to say and was able to explain her tasks clearly. Her manager nodded approvingly, and her confidence grew. Tackling challenges and practicing in real-life conversations outside work. Outside of work, Layla decided to push herself by having casual conversations with strangers whenever she could. She made small talk with her barista, asking, "How's your day going?" and striking up conversations with neighbors about the weather or the city's famous landmarks. Each of these small exchanges added to her confidence and fluency. One day, while waiting in line for coffee, she met Sarah, an English teacher from Australia who was new to London. Sarah noticed Layla's accent and asked if she was learning English, which led to a friendly conversation about language learning. Sarah mentioned a local language exchange group where people from different backgrounds met to practice English. Layla decided to join, and this became her favorite weekly activity. There, she met other people facing similar challenges and found it much easier to make mistakes and try new expressions in a supportive environment. Breaking through setbacks and maintaining motivation, the meeting mishap. 3 months into her job, Layla faced a setback during a client presentation. Her nerves got the best of her, and she stumbled over a few sentences which made her panic and lose focus. She left the meeting feeling embarrassed and defeated, questioning if she'd ever be truly fluent. But instead of giving up, Layla decided to reflect on what went wrong. She realized that she'd been focusing so much on sounding perfect that she wasn't allowing herself to make mistakes. She decided to take a more forgiving approach. Instead of aiming for flawless English, she'd focus on clear communication, even if it meant making some errors. Turning mistakes into learning moments. In her next meeting, she didn't pressure herself to be perfect. When she stumbled over a word, she paused, corrected herself, and continued. To her surprise, her colleagues didn't seem to mind at all. This taught her that mistakes were a normal part of language learning, and she didn't need to fear them. Reaching milestones and celebrating small wins. Feeling fluent and natural. Over the next few months, Layla continued to apply all her strategies, practicing visualization, having daily conversations, and reflecting on her progress. She found that she no longer needed to mentally rehearse every sentence. Words started to come more naturally. One evening, during a work gathering, Layla was deep in conversation with a colleague, laughing and sharing stories about their childhoods. Suddenly, she realized that she wasn't translating in her head anymore. She was speaking English naturally. This realization filled her with pride. All the practice, self-reflection, and persistence had finally paid off. A message for fellow learners. Layla's journey taught her that learning a language takes time, patience, and kindness toward oneself. By embracing each conversation as a learning opportunity, she not only became fluent in English, but also built meaningful connections with people from different backgrounds. Looking back, Layla often tells her story to encourage others. Fluency isn't about speaking perfectly, she says. It's about communicating your thoughts and connecting with others. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. They're your best teachers.
Hello, my dear friends. Today, I want to share something unique and deeply personal. A story about talking to yourself. Yes, you heard that right. We often talk to friends, family, and strangers, but what about ourselves? Have you ever tried to have a conversation with the person who knows you best, you? This story is about a boy who found comfort, clarity, and courage by speaking with himself in moments of doubt and reflection. Before we begin, let me explain the idea behind this topic. Talking to yourself isn't as strange as it might sound. It's a way of thinking out loud, organizing your thoughts, or even finding solutions to problems. Sometimes, it helps to hear your own voice reassuring you, motivating you, or simply giving you space to be honest. Many successful people admit to practicing self-talk, whether in front of a mirror or while pacing back and forth. It's a tool to build confidence, confront fears, and understand your feelings better. In this story, I've kept the language simple and conversational so everyone can easily understand and enjoy it. The main character, Alex, learns the art of self-talk and how it changes his life for the better. This journey is relatable and heartwarming, a tale of how one boy discovers the power within his own words. Let's dive in, Talking to myself. Hi, my name is Alex. I'm 19 years old, and I live in a small town surrounded by hills and rivers. Life here is quiet, but not always easy. I'm in my first year of college, and it's been a roller coaster of emotions. Exciting, overwhelming, and sometimes just plain confusing. I've always been a little shy, especially in new situations. While I love reading, watching movies, and dreaming about big adventures, when it comes to expressing myself, I often freeze. The words seem to vanish from my mind. One day, something happened that changed everything. I was sitting in my room, staring at my English homework. I had to give a presentation in class the next day, and my anxiety was through the roof. I felt this knot in my stomach, this voice in my head saying, "You can't do it, Alex. What if you mess up? What if everyone laughs at you?" I closed my textbook and sighed. The room was so quiet that I could hear my own heartbeat. Then, out of nowhere, I whispered to myself, "Why are you so scared, Alex? You've got this. You've prepared, haven't you?" The sound of my own voice startled me at first, but then I felt something else, calmness. It was as if someone else was there, giving me advice, but that someone was me. I sat up straighter. "Okay, Alex," I said, louder this time. "Let's practice. You're going to give the best presentation tomorrow." And that's how it started, my habit of talking to myself. At first it felt strange, even silly, but the more I did it, the more it became a part of my routine. I realized that when I spoke out loud, I could hear my doubts, face them, and respond to them logically. It was like being my own coach, my own friend. The next day, I gave my presentation. It wasn't perfect. I stumbled on a few words and my hands were shaking, but I did it. I didn't let fear stop me, and for the first time, I felt proud of myself. Over the months, self-talk became my secret weapon. Whenever I felt nervous or unsure, I would find a quiet corner and have a little chat with myself. Sometimes it was about small things like deciding what to wear. Other times, it was about big decisions like choosing which classes to take or how to handle conflicts with friends. One of the most memorable moments was when I had a fight with my best friend, Liam. We had always been close, but a misunderstanding had led to harsh words. I felt terrible but didn't know how to apologize. That evening, I sat by the river and started talking to myself. "Alex, you messed up, but you care about Liam, right? So why are you hesitating? Go and say sorry. What's the worst that could happen? He's your friend. He'll understand." Hearing those words out loud gave me the courage I needed. The next day, I approached Liam, apologized, and we worked things out. Self-talk also helped me during my part-time job at a cafe. On busy days, when orders piled up and customers grew impatient, I would quietly remind myself, "Stay calm, Alex. One order at a time. You're doing great." It was like having a tiny cheerleader in my head, keeping me motivated. But it wasn't always about solving problems. Sometimes I would talk to myself just for fun. I'd describe my dreams, like traveling to Japan or writing a novel. I'd imagine future conversations or even make jokes. It was a way of keeping myself company, especially on lonely days. One day, I read about how self-talk is a psychological tool. Experts call it inner dialogue, and they say it can shape your mindset and boost your confidence. I smiled when I read that because I was living proof of it. Of course, not everyone understood my habit. Once, my cousin caught me talking to myself in the garden and teased me about it. "Alex, are you practicing for a play or something?" He laughed. I just smiled and said, "No, I'm practicing being my own best friend." As time went on, my habit of talking to myself grew more natural. It wasn't just about handling difficult moments anymore. It became a way for me to understand myself better. When I was alone in my room, I'd sometimes ask questions out loud. "Alex, what do you really want from life? What's making you happy right now? Why does this situation upset you so much?" These conversations helped me uncover things I didn't even realize I was feeling. For example, one night, after a long day at college, I felt restless and irritated. At first, I blamed the heavy workload, but when I sat down and asked myself what was really bothering me, I discovered the truth. I was lonely. "Alex," I said softly, looking at my reflection in the mirror, "you miss having someone to talk to, don't you?" I nodded at my reflection. That simple acknowledgement lifted a weight off my chest. "Okay," I continued. "What can you do about it? Maybe call Liam? Or join a club at college?" The next day, I signed up for the drama club. I figured it would be a great way to meet new people and also push myself out of my comfort zone. Little did I know how much that decision would change my life. Meeting Emma. Joining the drama club was terrifying at first. I was surrounded by confident, expressive people who seemed to have no fear of being on stage. Meanwhile, I could barely introduce myself without fumbling over my words. But then, I met Emma. Emma was in my group for our first rehearsal. She had this warm smile and a way of making everyone feel comfortable. When it was my turn to practice a scene, I froze, my mind blank. "Hey, Alex," Emma said gently. "Take a deep breath. You've got this. Just pretend you're talking to yourself, like you're your own audience." I smiled at her words. If only she knew how often I did that. Her encouragement helped me relax, and I managed to get through the scene without panicking. After practice, Emma and I started talking. She told me how she used to be painfully shy, but found her confidence through acting. "I used to practice my lines in front of the mirror," she said. "Sometimes, I'd even have full conversations with myself." I laughed. "Sounds familiar," I admitted. "Talking to myself is kind of my thing." From that day on, Emma and I became close friends. We'd rehearse together, share stories, and even joke about our self-talk therapy sessions. She was one of the first people who truly understood me, and it felt amazing to have someone to share my journey with. Discovering the power of positivity. One evening, Emma and I were sitting on a park bench watching the sunset. I told her about how self-talk had helped me through tough times. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "you could use that to help others. Like, what if you shared your story with people who struggle with anxiety or self-doubt? You could inspire them." Her words stuck with me. I started wondering if my little habit could make a difference in someone else's life. That's when I decided to start a blog. I called it Conversations with Myself. It was a space where I could share my thoughts, experiences, and tips for using self-talk to overcome challenges. At first, I wasn't sure if anyone would read it, but to my surprise, people started responding. Comments poured in from readers who said they'd tried self-talk and found it helpful. Some shared their own stories of struggle and triumph. Reading their words made me realize that I wasn't alone, and neither were they. Facing my greatest fear, a few months later, the drama club announced a big event, a public performance at the town hall. Each member had to prepare a short monologue. When I heard the news, my heart sank. Speaking in front of a classroom was one thing, but performing on a stage in front of hundreds of people? That was my worst nightmare. For days, I debated whether to back out. But every time I thought about quitting, I heard my own voice in my head. "Alex, you've come so far. Don't give up now. You can do this." The night before the performance, I stood in front of the mirror and practiced my lines over and over. "Alex," I told myself, "you're not just saying these words. You're telling a story. Believe in yourself, and the audience will believe in you too." When the big day came, I was trembling with nerves, but as I walked onto the stage, I remembered all those conversations I'd had with myself. The encouragement, the honesty, the belief that I could overcome anything. I took a deep breath, looked out at the audience, and began. The beginning of something new. The performance was a success. For the first time in my life, I felt truly confident, like I was in control of my own destiny. After the show, people came up to me and said how much they loved my monologue. One woman even said, "You spoke with so much emotion, it felt like you were sharing your own story." I smiled. In a way, I was. That night I sat down to write a new post for my blog. I titled it, "The Day I Found My Voice." In it, I wrote about how self-talk had helped me face my fears and find my confidence. As I hit publish, I realized something important. Talking to yourself isn't just about solving problems or calming nerves. It's about discovering who you are, embracing your strengths, and becoming your own biggest supporter. And that's a lesson I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. As my blog gained traction, I started receiving emails and messages from people all over the world. Many thanked me for sharing my experiences. Others asked for advice. A recurring theme in their messages was fear. The fear of failure, rejection, or simply not being good enough. Reading their words reminded me of the younger version of myself, the boy who would sit alone in his room, paralyzed by doubt. I wanted to help them the way I had helped myself. One evening, as I was responding to a message from a reader, an idea struck me. What if I created a space where people could practice self-talk together? A community where they could learn from one another and support each other in finding their inner voice. The Self-Talk Circle. I decided to host a small online workshop. I called it the Self-Talk Circle. The idea was simple. Participants would share their struggles, and together, we'd practice self-talk techniques to overcome them. I was nervous before the first session. What if no one showed up? Or worse, what if people didn't find it helpful? But when the time came, I was amazed to see over 30 participants join the virtual room. They came from different backgrounds, students, working professionals, parents, all united by the desire to overcome their fears and build their confidence. I started the session by sharing my story, just like I had on my blog. Then, I introduced a simple exercise. Close your eyes, I said, and imagine you're talking to a friend who's feeling exactly the way you are. What would you say to them? Now, open your eyes and say those words to yourself. At first, there was hesitation. People stumbled over their words, unsure of what to say. But as the session went on, the energy in the room shifted. Participants began speaking with more conviction, more kindness. One woman, Maria, shared how she struggled with public speaking. She practiced saying, "Maria, you are brave, and your voice matters." By the end of the session, she was smiling, her voice steady and confident. Seeing the transformation in others filled me with a sense of purpose. I realized that my journey wasn't just about me. It was about helping others discover their own inner strength. Expanding the vision. The success of the workshop inspired me to do more. I started creating video tutorials on self-talk techniques and posting them on social media. My followers grew, and soon, people began inviting me to speak at schools and community centers. One of the most memorable invitations came from my old high school. When I walked into the auditorium, memories of my shy, awkward teenage self came flooding back. But this time, I wasn't the nervous kid hiding in the corner. I was standing on stage, sharing my journey with hundreds of students. I spoke about the power of self-talk, how it had helped me conquer my fears and find my voice. If I can do it, I told them, so can you. Start small. Start by saying one kind thing to yourself every day. It might feel strange at first, but trust me, it works. After the talk, a young boy approached me. He reminded me so much of myself at his age, quiet, uncertain, but full of potential. "Alex," he said, "I get really nervous during exams. Do you think talking to myself could help?" I smiled and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Absolutely," I said. "Start by saying, 'I'm prepared and I can handle this.' Repeat it until you believe it. You're stronger than you think." A conversation that changed everything. One evening, as I was preparing for another workshop, Emma called me. "Alex," she said, her voice excited, "I've been thinking. You've been helping so many people online, but what if we took this to the next level? Like writing a book, or even starting a podcast." Her words hit me like a lightning bolt. A book, a podcast. The idea thrilled me and terrified me at the same time. "Do you really think I could do that?" I asked, my old self-doubt creeping in. "Of course you can," Emma said firmly. "You've already proven that you can inspire people. This is just the next step." That night, I sat down with my journal and had one of the most important conversations with myself. "Alex," I said, "you've come so far. You've faced your fears, helped others, and found your voice. Why stop now? You've got a story to tell, and it deserves to be heard." By the end of that self-talk session, I was filled with a renewed sense of determination. The next chapter. Over the next few months, I poured my heart into writing a book. I called it The Voice Within. It was a collection of stories, exercises, and insights about the power of self-talk. When it was finally published, the response was overwhelming. Readers from all over the world shared how the book had changed their lives. Emma and I also launched a podcast where we invited guests to share their own experiences with self-talk and personal growth. The podcast quickly gained popularity, and I found myself connecting with people I never imagined I'd meet. Psychologists, authors, even celebrities who credited self-talk with helping them succeed. Through it all, I never stopped practicing what I preached. Every morning, I'd start my day with a conversation with myself. Sometimes it was a pep talk, other times it was simply a moment of gratitude. As life continued, the lessons I learned from talking to myself became more than just a habit. They became a foundation for how I approached every challenge, decision, and opportunity. With the success of The Voice Within and the podcast, I felt like I was living in a dream. But the truth was, self-talk wasn't just something I did in the quiet moments of my life anymore. It became an active tool that I used to stay grounded, even when the world around me felt chaotic. The challenges of growth. As my message spread, so did the responsibilities. Managing the blog, hosting workshops, recording podcast episodes, and responding to hundreds of messages. It all started to feel overwhelming. One night after a long day, I sat at my desk, staring at a to-do list that seemed never-ending. For the first time in a while, doubt crept in. Am I doing enough? Am I even helping people the way I want to? I slumped back in my chair, feeling the weight of expectations, most of them my own. That's when I remembered the very thing I'd been teaching others. I walked over to the mirror and looked at my tired reflection. "Alex," I said, my voice steady but soft. "It's okay to feel overwhelmed. You're human. But look at everything you've accomplished. You've helped so many people. You don't have to do it all at once. Take it one step at a time." The words were simple, but they brought me back to center. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and decided to prioritize. Instead of trying to do everything, I focused on what mattered most, connecting with people and sharing my message. A new opportunity. A few months later, I received an email from a producer at a major media network. They wanted to feature my story in a documentary series about people who had turned personal struggles into sources of inspiration. At first, I was excited, but then the familiar nerves kicked in. The idea of cameras following me around, of sharing even more of my life with the world, felt intimidating. That night, I found myself in front of the mirror again. "Alex," I said, "this is an incredible opportunity. It's okay to be scared, but you've faced fear before, and every time, you've come out stronger. This is your chance to reach even more people. Trust yourself." The next morning, I agreed to be part of the documentary. The experience was both challenging and rewarding. As the cameras rolled, I opened up about my journey, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. When the documentary aired, the response was overwhelming. People from all walks of life reached out, sharing how my story had inspired them to start their own conversations with themselves. Emma's new role. Through it all, Emma remained my closest friend and biggest supporter. One day, she surprised me with an idea. "Alex," she said, What if we started hosting retreats? A weekend where people can disconnect from the chaos of their lives and focus on themselves, on finding their voice and building their confidence? The idea was brilliant. Together, we planned the first Voice Within retreat. It was held at a peaceful countryside location, surrounded by nature. For 3 days, participants engaged in workshops, mindfulness exercises, and guided self-talk sessions. Watching people transform over the course of the retreat was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. By the end, many participants shared that they felt lighter, more confident, and ready to face their challenges. A personal breakthrough. Despite all the growth and success, there was one area of my life where I still struggled, forgiving myself for past mistakes. One evening, I found an old journal from my teenage years. Flipping through its pages, I came across an entry where I'd written about a moment I regretted, a time when I let my fear stop me from standing up for a friend. Reading those words brought back a flood of emotions: guilt, shame, and a lingering sense of failure. For years I had avoided thinking about that moment, but now I realized it was time to confront it. I sat down in front of the mirror and began a conversation with myself. "Alex," I said, "you were young. You didn't know how to handle that situation, and that's okay. You've grown since then. You've learned. It's time to let go of the past and forgive yourself." Tears streamed down my face as I repeated those words. It wasn't easy, but by the end of the conversation, I felt a sense of relief. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to move on. Looking ahead. As I reflect on my journey, I realize that talking to myself has been more than just a tool. It's been a lifeline. It's helped me navigate the toughest moments, celebrate the victories, and connect with people in ways I never thought possible. The conversations I've had with myself have shaped who I am today. They've taught me to be kind, patient, and honest with myself. And they've shown me that the most important relationship I'll ever have is the one I have with myself. So, my dear friends, wherever you are on your own journey, remember this: you are your own best ally. Take the time to listen to yourself, to understand your needs, and to cheer yourself on. Because when you believe in yourself, there's nothing you can't achieve. And as for me, well, I'll keep talking, because every conversation is a step toward becoming the best version of myself. We're going to dive into a topic that has helped me and so many others grow, overcome challenges, and find the strength within: talking to yourself. What is one small step I can take right now to move forward? How can I make this task easier for myself? What strengths do I have that will help me get through this? These questions focus on solutions and the steps you can take to solve the problem, rather than fixating on the problem itself. Asking empowering questions redirects your thinking and makes you feel more in control. 5. Celebrate your progress. Self-recognition. Talking to yourself isn't just about navigating challenges. It's also about celebrating your progress and achievements, big or small. Often, we forget to recognize the hard work we've done and the growth we've made. Example. Let's say you've been working on improving your English speaking skills. One day, you have a conversation in English without feeling anxious or stumbling over your words. Instead of just brushing it off, take a moment to celebrate. Say to yourself, "Alex, I'm proud of you for speaking confidently today. You've worked hard to get here, and this is a huge accomplishment. Keep going. You're improving every day." Recognizing your progress not only boosts your self-esteem, but also encourages you to keep pushing forward. 6. Practice mindfulness. Stay present in the moment. Another effective way of talking to yourself is by practicing mindfulness. This means being fully present in the moment and observing your thoughts without judgment. Mindfulness allows you to recognize when negative thoughts arise and gently redirect them. Example. Imagine you're feeling anxious about an upcoming meeting. Instead of allowing those anxious thoughts to spiral, take a deep breath and say, "I am here in this moment. I don't need to worry about what happens next. I can handle whatever comes my way. This mindfulness technique helps ground you, reduces anxiety, and allows you to focus on the present moment rather than worrying about the future. Developing a habit of talking to yourself. The key to making talking to yourself effective is to develop a consistent habit. This means integrating this practice into your daily routine so it becomes second nature when facing tough situations. Much like exercising, it takes time to build this muscle, but the results are worth it. The more you practice talking to yourself positively and intentionally, the more you'll notice a shift in your mindset. It starts small, but over time you'll find that you approach challenges with confidence, see setbacks as learning opportunities, and cultivate a mindset that supports your well-being. Example: let's say every morning you wake up and tell yourself, "Today I will take one step closer to my goals. I may face challenges, but I am strong enough to handle them." You say this to yourself every day, and soon, when life presents difficulties, that inner voice will automatically pop up to remind you of your strength and resilience. After weeks or months of this daily practice, your response to challenges will have shifted. Instead of panicking or doubting yourself, your first thought might be, "I've faced tough situations before, and I've gotten through them. I can do this." This consistent practice of self-talk will help rewire your brain to naturally adopt a more positive and proactive mindset. Using self-talk for stress management. Another way to use self-talk is for stress management. In our busy, fast-paced world, stress can often feel overwhelming. However, by talking to yourself, you can reduce that stress and find ways to approach situations with a calmer, clearer mind. Example: imagine you're preparing for an exam or a presentation, and the stress starts building up. You begin to think, "I'm going to fail. I'm not ready. This is too much to handle." At this moment, instead of letting those negative thoughts take over, take a deep breath and reframe your thinking. "I've prepared for this. I know this material. It's okay to feel nervous, but I am ready. I'll focus on one thing at a time and give my best effort." By speaking to yourself this way, you take control of your emotions and shift your focus from anxiety to calm, rational thinking. This type of self-talk is a form of emotional regulation and helps you to stay focused, reduce your stress, and manage pressure in a healthier way. Creating a safe space. Through self-talk. Self-talk isn't just about motivation or boosting confidence. It can also serve as a way to create a mental space where you feel safe, supported, and at peace. Especially during times of uncertainty or hardship, talking to yourself can help you feel more grounded. Example: let's say you're going through a tough time, maybe in your relationships or dealing with personal loss. During these moments, you may feel lost or emotionally drained. Talking to yourself can be a form of self-soothing. For example, you might say to yourself, "It's okay to feel sad. This is hard, but I am strong. I have been through tough times before, and I will get through this one too. It's okay to take time for myself." This kind of self-talk reassures you that it's okay to not have everything figured out, and that emotional healing takes time. It's a reminder that you're allowed to be human, to feel your emotions, and to give yourself the space you need to heal. Self-talk for decision-making and problem-solving. Talking to yourself also works wonders when making decisions or solving problems. When you're faced with a tough decision, your thoughts can easily spiral into confusion or overwhelm. But by talking through the decision-making process with yourself, you can clarify your thoughts and approach the situation with a more level-headed mindset. Example: let's say you're trying to decide whether to take on a new job opportunity. There are a lot of factors to consider: salary, location, work-life balance, and career growth. If you try to make the decision in a rushed, emotional state, you might miss key details. Instead, use self-talk to break things down. Let's think this through. First, what do I want most in my career right now? I want growth and a good work-life balance. Does this new job offer those things? What are the pros and cons? Okay, I see that the salary is higher, but the commute might be longer. How will that affect my life outside of work? What's more important to me right now? By talking to yourself like this, you are essentially problem-solving out loud, which allows you to weigh the options without getting bogged down by overwhelming emotions or external pressures. It helps you make decisions that are aligned with your values and goals, reinforcing your boundaries with self-talk. Another helpful application of self-talk is reinforcing your personal boundaries. In life, there are moments when people or situations may try to push us past our limits. Whether it's at work, in relationships, or in social settings, we sometimes need to remind ourselves of what we are willing to accept and what we are not. Example: let's say you're in a social situation where someone is being overly critical or disrespectful. Instead of letting it affect you or remaining silent, you can use self-talk to strengthen your resolve. I have the right to stand up for myself. I don't have to accept disrespectful behavior from anyone. It's okay to set boundaries. I will calmly express that this is not acceptable and remove myself from the situation if necessary. This kind of self-talk gives you the courage to assert yourself and establish boundaries without feeling guilty. It helps you feel more empowered and confident in handling difficult people or situations. Embracing self-talk in challenging situations. One of the most valuable aspects of self-talk is its ability to help you navigate through challenging situations. Whether it's public speaking, dealing with confrontation, or facing any type of fear or uncertainty, talking to yourself can prepare you mentally, emotionally, and physically for what lies ahead. Example: imagine you're about to give a big presentation at work and you're feeling nervous. You could be flooded with negative thoughts like, what if I mess up? What if I forget everything? I'm going to look foolish. Instead of letting those thoughts take over, you can counter them by talking to yourself in a positive, reassuring way. I have prepared for this. I know my material. It's okay to be nervous. It's a sign that I care about doing well. I'll take it step by step. If I make a mistake, I can recover. I am capable of handling this. By saying these things aloud or to yourself, you not only calm your nerves, but also build a sense of self-confidence that will empower you to perform better. Over time, this kind of self-talk becomes an automatic response to nervousness or fear, allowing you to remain poised and focused, no matter the situation. Using self-talk for motivation and momentum. Sometimes the hardest part is simply getting started. Whether it's exercising, working on a big project, or tackling a goal you've been putting off, self-talk can act as a powerful motivator to break through the initial resistance. Example: let's say you've been procrastinating about starting a fitness routine. You've been putting it off for days, maybe even weeks. When you think about working out, you feel tired and unmotivated. This is where self-talk comes in. Okay, it's time to get moving. It doesn't have to be perfect. Even just 10 minutes will help me feel better and get closer to my goal. I don't need to wait for motivation, I just need to start. This type of self-talk helps you push past the resistance and build momentum. Once you start, you often realize it's not as difficult as you imagined. And the more you do this, the easier it becomes to initiate action, whether it's working out, studying, or working on any other goal. Using self-talk to build positive habits. Another powerful way to use self-talk is to build long-term positive habits. Whether it's practicing mindfulness, eating healthier, or sticking to a daily routine, self-talk helps reinforce your commitment to these habits, making it easier to follow through. Example: let's say your goal is to develop a morning routine. The first few days might be difficult as you adjust to the change, and you might want to skip or make excuses. But with self-talk, you can keep yourself on track by reminding yourself of the benefits and why you started. I've committed to this because it will help me start my day with focus and energy. Even if I'm tired, I can still do this. It's a small effort that will pay off big in the long run. As you continue talking to yourself in this positive, reinforcing manner, you begin to see the benefits of the routine, and it becomes easier to stick to it. Over time, these positive habits become ingrained, and self-talk helps you maintain them even when you face distractions or setbacks. Self-talk to cultivate gratitude. One of the most beneficial aspects of self-talk is its ability to shift your mindset toward gratitude. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to focus on what we lack or what's going wrong. However, by practicing gratitude through self-talk, we can train our minds to recognize the positive things in our lives, fostering a sense of appreciation and contentment. Example: at the end of a long, exhausting day, you might be tempted to focus on the negatives. I didn't get everything done today. I'm so behind. Instead of falling into that mindset, you can reframe the situation with self-talk. I may not have completed everything, but I made progress today. I am grateful for the work I did, the time I spent with loved ones, and the opportunity to rest and recharge for tomorrow. This shift in perspective, driven by your self-talk, not only makes you feel better but also trains your brain to notice the good in your life. Over time, this leads to an increased sense of gratitude, which has been linked to better mental health, increased happiness, and greater overall well-being, silencing the negative inner critic. Sometimes, the voice in your head can be overly critical, telling you that you're not good enough or that you're bound to fail. This negative inner critic can be paralyzing, but the beauty of self-talk is that you can challenge and silence that voice. Example: imagine you're about to try something new, like learning a new skill or pursuing a new project, and that critical voice starts saying things like, "You're not capable of doing this. You're going to fail. Why even bother?" Instead of listening to those thoughts, you can counter them with positive self-talk. This is a new challenge, and it's okay to feel uncertain. I don't need to be perfect. I'm capable of learning, growing, and making progress. I will give my best effort and learn from my mistakes. By responding to the negative self-talk with more supportive and encouraging thoughts, you gradually diminish the power of that critical voice. Over time, you'll find it easier to push through self-doubt and take action, knowing that your inner dialogue is on your side. Turning self-talk into a daily practice. Self-talk works best when it becomes a consistent habit, not just something you do occasionally. Integrating it into your daily routine allows it to become second nature, making it easier to rely on during stressful or challenging moments. Morning affirmations. Start your day with empowering self-talk. When you wake up, take a few moments to set a positive tone for the day by affirming your goals, values, and strengths. Example: instead of waking up and immediately worrying about the tasks ahead, say, "Today is a new day with new opportunities. I am capable of handling whatever comes my way. I will approach the day with gratitude, focus, and energy." This simple practice helps you start your day on a positive note, setting the stage for success and resilience. Check-ins. Throughout the day. Throughout the day, pause for quick mental check-ins. Ask yourself how you're feeling, what thoughts are dominating your mind, and how you can adjust your self-talk to stay aligned with your goals. Example: during a busy afternoon at work, you might feel overwhelmed and think, "I can't do this. There's too much on my plate." Counter that thought with, "I can break this into smaller steps. I'll tackle one task at a time, and I don't need to be perfect. Progress is what matters." This small shift can make a big difference in how you approach your workload. End-of-day reflections. Before going to bed, reflect on the day using self-talk. Focus on what went well and what you can improve without being overly critical. Example: today wasn't perfect, but I'm proud of the effort I put in. I learned from the challenges I faced, and tomorrow is another opportunity to do better. I'm grateful for everything I accomplished, big or small. This kind of reflection reinforces a growth mindset and helps you end the day on a positive note. Using self-talk for emotional regulation. One of the most powerful applications of self-talk is managing your emotions. Whether you're feeling angry, sad, anxious, or frustrated, self-talk can help you process your feelings and respond in a healthier way. Dealing with anger. When you're angry, your thoughts can become reactive and unfiltered, leading to impulsive actions. Self-talk gives you the space to pause and think rationally before responding. Example: if someone cuts you off in traffic and you feel your anger rising, instead of yelling or reacting, say to yourself, "I can't control what they did, but I can control how I respond. Getting upset won't change anything. I'll let it go and focus on getting where I need to be safely." This practice not only helps you manage your emotions, but also reduces stress in the long run. Managing anxiety. Anxiety often comes from spiraling thoughts about the future. Self-talk can ground you in the present and remind you that you're capable of handling whatever comes your way. Example: before an important meeting or event, you might think, "What if I mess up? Everyone will judge me." Counter that with, "I've prepared for this and I know what I'm doing. It's normal to feel nervous, but I won't let it stop me. I'll take a deep breath and focus on doing my best." By reframing your thoughts, you shift from fear to confidence. Processing sadness. When you're feeling down, self-talk can help you acknowledge your emotions without letting them overwhelm you. It's important to be kind and compassionate to yourself during these moments. Example: if you're feeling sad after a setback, instead of thinking, "I'm a failure, I'll never succeed," say, "It's okay to feel this way. I tried my best, and setbacks are a part of life. I'll learn from this experience and come back stronger. This moment doesn't define me." This approach helps you process your feelings while maintaining a sense of hope and resilience. Rehearsing success through self-talk. Another great way to use self-talk is by mentally rehearsing success. Visualization combined with positive self-talk can help you prepare for important events and boost your confidence. Example: imagine you have a big interview coming up. Close your eyes and visualize yourself walking into the room, answering questions confidently, and leaving with a sense of accomplishment. As you visualize, say to yourself, "I am prepared and capable. I will communicate clearly and confidently. I deserve this opportunity, and I will give it my best effort." This mental rehearsal trains your brain to associate the event with positive outcomes, making you feel more confident and in control. Overcoming negative self-talk. We all have moments when our inner critic gets the best of us. The key is to recognize when negative self-talk is happening and consciously replace it with something more constructive. Step 1. Recognize the negative thought. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. Are you being overly critical or harsh on yourself? For example, if you think, "I'm so bad at this, I'll never get it right," acknowledge that this thought isn't helpful. Step 2. Challenge the thought. Ask yourself if the thought is true or if you're being too hard on yourself. Most negative self-talk is exaggerated or based on fear rather than reality. Step 3. Replace with a positive thought. Replace the negative thought with something more balanced and constructive. For example, negative: "I'm terrible at this." Positive: "I'm still learning, and it's okay to make mistakes. I'm improving every day." By practicing this process regularly, you'll find it easier to shift from negativity to positivity. Combining self-talk with other techniques. To make self-talk even more effective, you can combine it with other strategies like deep breathing, mindfulness, or journaling. Deep breathing. When you're feeling stressed or anxious, combine calming self-talk with deep breathing. For example, as you inhale, say to yourself, "I am calm and in control." As you exhale, say, "I release all tension and stress." Mindfulness practice being present in the moment while using self-talk to focus your attention. For example, during a walk, you might say, "I feel the ground beneath my feet. I hear the birds singing. I am present and at peace." Journaling. Write down your self-talk to reflect on your thoughts and track your progress over time. For example, you could write, "Today, I used self-talk to stay calm during a stressful meeting. It helped me focus and respond thoughtfully." Building self-talk habits for different stages of life. Self-talk isn't static. It grows with you, adapting to new challenges, environments, and goals. From childhood to adulthood, and even in your later years, the way you talk to yourself can guide your journey. Childhood and adolescence, planting the seeds. During these formative years, self-talk often mirrors what children hear from the adults around them. Parents, teachers, and peers play a significant role in shaping how young people perceive themselves. Example of positive self-talk for students. A teenager struggling with a difficult math problem might initially think, "I'll never get this. I'm just not good at math." Through encouragement or a shift in mindset, they can learn to say, "I haven't figured this out yet, but I can keep trying. Every mistake I make brings me closer to understanding." Early adulthood. Navigating independence. As individuals transition into adulthood, self-talk becomes crucial for making decisions, overcoming self-doubt, and building confidence. Example for early career challenges. Starting a new job can be intimidating, and it's easy to feel out of place. Instead of thinking, "I'm not qualified for this, everyone else is better than me," they can practice saying, "I'm here because I earned this opportunity. I don't need to know everything right away. Learning is part of the process." Midlife. Balancing responsibilities. In midlife, people often juggle multiple responsibilities: family, career, and personal goals. Self-talk can provide clarity and calm during this busy phase. Example for managing stress. When feeling overwhelmed by work and family obligations, it's helpful to say, "I'm doing my best, and that's enough. It's okay to ask for help when I need it. I can take things one step at a time." Later years. Reflecting and embracing change. In later years, self-talk can help individuals navigate transitions, maintain a sense of purpose, and reflect on their lives with gratitude. Example for aging. Gracefully. Instead of focusing on limitations, one might say, "I've experienced so much and learned from every phase of life. I still have the ability to grow, contribute, and enjoy the present moment." Using self-talk to build resilience. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from challenges, and self-talk is a key tool for developing this trait. Let's explore how it works in practice. Reframing setbacks as opportunities. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to dwell on failure. Self-talk can help you see the silver lining and focus on what you've gained rather than what you've lost. Example of resilience after rejection. Imagine applying for a job and not getting it. Instead of thinking, "I'll never succeed. I'm not good enough." Try reframing with, "This wasn't the right fit for me, but it's an opportunity to learn and grow. I'll use this experience to improve for the next opportunity." Finding strength in difficult times. During periods of grief, loss, or uncertainty, self-talk can be a source of comfort and strength. Example of comfort. During a loss. When mourning the loss of a loved one, it's natural to feel overwhelmed by sadness. Gentle self-talk might include, "It's okay to feel this pain. It means I deeply cared. I will cherish the memories and honor them by living fully." Practical exercises to strengthen self-talk. If you're looking to make self-talk a consistent part of your life, here are some exercises to practice. 1. Mirror conversations. Stand in front of a mirror and speak to yourself as if you were encouraging a friend. This practice helps build self-compassion and reinforces positive messages. Example. Look in the mirror and say, "You're doing a great job. Even on hard days, you keep pushing forward, and that's something to be proud of." 2. Write a letter to yourself. Take some time to write a letter to your future self. Include words of encouragement, reminders of your strengths, and advice for staying resilient. Example. Start, dear future. Me, I know you'll face challenges, but I also know you're capable of overcoming them. Remember how strong you've been in the past and trust in your ability to keep growing. 3. Create a personal mantra. Develop a short phrase or sentence that resonates with you and repeat it daily. This mantra can serve as an anchor during stressful moments. Example, mantra. I am capable, resilient, and worthy of success. 4. Keep a self-talk journal. At the end of each day, write down any negative thoughts you had and how you countered them with positive self-talk. Over time, you'll notice patterns and improvements. Real-life success stories. Self-talk has transformed the lives of many people. Let's look at a real-life example of how it can be applied effectively. Story of overcoming fear. A young man named Ravi always dreamed of becoming a public speaker, but was terrified of speaking in front of an audience. His inner dialogue was filled with thoughts like, "What if I forget my words? People will laugh at me." Through consistent self-talk practice, he started reframing these thoughts. Before each speech, he would say, "I've prepared for this moment. Even if I make a mistake, it's a chance to connect with the audience. I'll speak from the heart, and that's what matters." Over time, Ravi gained confidence and became a sought-after speaker, inspiring others to embrace self-talk as a tool for growth. Overcoming challenges in building positive self-talk. While talking to yourself has immense benefits, it's not always easy to shift from negative to positive self-talk. Here are some common hurdles and ways to overcome them. 1. Feeling self-conscious about talking to yourself. Many people feel awkward or silly when they start practicing self-talk, especially if they do it out loud. The key is to remember that this practice is for your personal growth and doesn't need to be visible to anyone else. Solution: start small. If speaking out loud feels uncomfortable, try writing your thoughts in a journal or thinking them silently in your head. Over time, you can transition to vocalizing them in private spaces, like your room or car. Example: if you're nervous about a big presentation, whisper to yourself, "I've got this. I've practiced and prepared. I'll handle this with confidence." 2. Struggling to believe positive statements. If your self-esteem is low, saying positive affirmations might feel forced or untrue at first. Solution: start with neutral statements that feel more realistic, and gradually build up to positive affirmations. Example: instead of saying, "I am amazing at this," try, "I'm improving every day. I don't need to be perfect. I just need to keep trying." As you build confidence, you can transition to stronger affirmations like, "I am capable, skilled, and ready to succeed." 3. Being overwhelmed by negative thoughts. When negative thoughts flood your mind, it can feel impossible to counteract them with positive self-talk. Solution: use a pause and redirect technique. Acknowledge the negative thought without judgment, then replace it with a constructive one. Example: if you think, "I always mess things up," pause and say, "Mistakes are part of learning. What can I do differently next time?" This approach shifts your focus from self-criticism to problem-solving. 4. Inconsistency in practice. Like any habit, self-talk requires consistency. It's easy to forget to practice, especially when life gets busy. Solution: tie self-talk to your daily routine. For example, you could practice self-talk every morning when you look in the mirror, during your commute, or before bed. Example: start your day by saying, "Today is a fresh start. I'll approach it with curiosity and confidence." Advanced self-talk techniques. Once you've mastered the basics of self-talk, you can take it to the next level with these advanced strategies. 1. Visualization with self-talk. Pair your self-talk with visualization to make it even more powerful. Picture yourself succeeding as you speak positive affirmations. Example: Before an important interview, close your eyes and say, I'll walk into the room with confidence. I'll answer questions clearly and connect with the interviewer. Visualize yourself doing exactly that. Dialogues instead of monologues. Rather than speaking to yourself as a single entity, create an internal dialogue where one part of you, the supportive voice, encourages the other, the doubtful voice. Example: when doubting yourself, have an internal conversation like this. Doubtful voice: what if I fail? Supportive voice: failure is a stepping stone to success. Every attempt brings me closer to my goal. 3. Gratitude-based self-talk. Shift your focus from what's wrong to what's right by incorporating gratitude into your self-talk. Example: at the end of a tough day, say, today was challenging, but I'm grateful for the lessons I learned. I'm proud of myself for pushing through. 4. Future-oriented self-talk. Speak to yourself as if you're already living the future you desire. This helps align your mindset with your goals. Example: if you're working towards a big goal, say, I'm proud of the progress I've made. I'm becoming the person I've always wanted to be. Practical self-talk scenarios. Let's revisit self-talk in action with fully detailed examples for different real-life situations. Scenario 1. Dealing with rejection. Imagine a boy named Ayan who auditioned for a school play but wasn't selected. Initially, he feels devastated and thinks, I'm not good enough. I'll never succeed at this. Through self-talk, he reframes his perspective. This audition didn't go as I hoped, but it's not the end of the road. I learned what I need to improve, and I'll come back stronger next time. Scenario 2. Facing public speaking anxiety. Sophia, a college student, has to give a speech in class. She's terrified and thinks, what if I mess up and everyone laughs at me? Using self-talk, she calms herself. Hello, my dear friends. Today I want to share a story that explains why reading is such an important habit in our lives. I know that sometimes picking up a book can feel like a chore, especially when there are so many distractions around us. But trust me, reading is like planting a tree that will one day give you shade, fruits, and flowers. It is a skill and a habit that shapes your mind, opens new worlds, and helps you grow as a person. Let me tell you about a boy named Ryan who discovered the magic of reading and how it completely transformed his life. This story is written in a simple way, so everyone can understand it, no matter where you're from or how much English you know. It's about a boy, his struggles, and his journey to becoming a passionate reader who understood the true value of knowledge. Reading isn't just about finishing books. It's about how stories, knowledge, and words connect with you. They teach you to think, feel, and dream beyond what you see. So sit back, relax, and join me as I take you through Ryan's story. The story. Hello, my name is Ryan, and I want to tell you something important, he began, sitting on the edge of his bed, addressing an imaginary audience. It had been a tough week, and Ryan felt overwhelmed with everything happening in his life. School was hard, his grades were slipping, and his parents were always worried about him. His friends seemed to have it all figured out, but Ryan, he felt lost. One evening, Ryan's father walked into his room, holding an old book. Ryan, he said, I think this might help you. The book was worn, its pages yellowed, but there was something inviting about it. The title read, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Why would I read this? Ryan asked, frowning. His father smiled. Just give it a try. You might find something interesting in there. Reluctantly, Ryan opened the book. At first, the words felt like a maze, and his mind wandered. But as he read on, something unexpected happened. The story began to draw him in. He could see the mischievous Tom Sawyer tricking his friends into painting a fence. He laughed, felt curious, and for the first time in weeks, forgot about his own problems. That night, Ryan read until his eyes grew heavy. When he closed the book, he felt lighter, as though he had traveled to another world and returned safely. Discovering the power of words. The next day at school, Ryan found himself thinking about Tom Sawyer during a dull math class. For the first time, he wondered, what other stories are out there? After school, he went to the library. It was quiet, with rows of shelves filled with books of all shapes and sizes. Ryan felt small in front of so much knowledge, but he also felt curious. "Can I help you find something?" the librarian asked kindly. I'm not sure," Ryan admitted. "I just finished a book, and I think I want to read more." The librarian smiled. "You've come to the right place." She handed him a book called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. "Give this one a try. It's about magic and courage." Ryan devoured the book in 3 days. Each chapter felt like an adventure, and he couldn't wait to find out what happened next. A growing passion. Over the months, reading became a daily habit for Ryan. He read stories about space, history, fantasy worlds, and real-life heroes. Each book taught him something new. From novels, he learned about emotions, bravery, and imagination. From non-fiction books, he gained knowledge about science, the world, and even how to solve problems. His grades improved because he could now understand and analyze texts better. Even his teachers noticed the change. "You've become quite the reader, Ryan," his English teacher said one day. But it wasn't just school that changed. Ryan started seeing the world differently. He would notice small details, like the way sunlight filtered through trees, just like a description he had read in a book. He started asking more questions and having deeper conversations with his friends and family. Why reading matters. One day, Ryan's younger brother, Max, walked into his room. "Ryan, why are you always reading?" Max asked, frowning. Ryan put down his book and smiled. "Because reading helps me see the world in ways I couldn't before. It's like it gives you new eyes." Max looked skeptical. "How?" "Okay, think about this," Ryan said, pointing to his book. "Have you ever wondered what it's like to live in another country or another time? Books can take you there. They can teach you things you never knew, help you understand people better, and even inspire you to dream big." Max nodded slowly. "But what if I'm not good at reading?" "You don't have to be perfect," Ryan reassured him. "Start small. Pick something fun, like comics or short stories. The more you read, the better you'll get. And trust me, it's worth it." The magic of connection. Ryan's journey didn't stop there. As he grew older, reading became a part of his identity. He joined book clubs, shared his favorite stories with friends, and even started writing his own. Books were no longer just a hobby. They were a bridge to understanding the world and himself. Looking back, Ryan often thought about that first book his father gave him. It wasn't just a story about Tom Sawyer. It was the beginning of a journey that changed his life. Ryan's new chapter. As Ryan grew older, his love for reading only deepened. But it wasn't just about consuming books anymore. He started to wonder how he could share the magic of reading with others. One day, during a class discussion, his English teacher, Ms. Harper, asked the students a question that lit a spark in Ryan's mind. "What's one thing you've learned that you think everyone should know?" she asked, her eyes scanning the room. Ryan raised his hand, something he rarely did before books gave him confidence. "I've learned that reading isn't just about stories. It's about understanding people, the world, and even yourself." Ms. Harper smiled. "That's a powerful insight, Ryan. Would you like to elaborate?" Ryan hesitated, but took a deep breath. "When I read, I feel like I'm living 100 different lives. It's like I get to experience things I might never get to in real life. And the best part? It's made me more curious about everything around me." The room was quiet, his classmates absorbing his words. That moment planted a seed in Ryan's mind. Maybe he could inspire others to read too. The Library Club. The next week, Ryan approached Ms. Harper after class. "I was wondering, do you think the school would let me start a reading club?" Her face lit up. "That's a wonderful idea. I'm sure the principal would approve. Let's work on a proposal together." A month later, the library club was officially launched. Ryan was nervous during the first meeting, expecting only a handful of students to show up. But to his surprise, nearly 20 kids filled the library, curious about what the club had to offer. "I'm not here to make you read boring textbooks," Ryan began, his voice steady. "I want us to explore books that make us laugh, cry, and think. Books that inspire us and connect us to the world. Let's start with something fun. Who here has heard of Percy Jackson?" Hands shot up, and soon the room buzzed with excitement as Ryan handed out copies of the book. They agreed to read the first 5 chapters and meet next week to discuss their favorite parts. A ripple effect. As the weeks went by, the club grew. Students who once thought reading was dull started discovering genres they loved: fantasy, mystery, science fiction, even poetry. Ryan noticed how books brought them together, breaking barriers between shy kids, sports stars, and academic achievers. One day, a girl named Lily, who rarely spoke in class, came up to Ryan. "I just wanted to say thank you," she murmured. "Before this club, I didn't think I was smart enough to read big books. But now, I can't stop. It's like they're my friends." Ryan grinned. "Books don't judge, Lily. They're there for everyone." A new dream. As Ryan approached graduation, he began to think about his future. He had always assumed he would follow a practical career path like engineering or business, but now he wasn't so sure. One afternoon, while flipping through a book about inspiring educators, he realized his calling. "I want to be a teacher," he told his parents at dinner. His mother blinked in surprise. "A teacher? Why?" "Because books changed my life," Ryan said, his voice firm. "And I want to help other kids discover that too." His father smiled, the same way he had the night he gave Ryan the adventures of Tom Sawyer. "If that's what you're passionate about, we'll support you." spreading the joy of reading years. Later, Ryan stood in front of his first classroom, a group of wide-eyed sixth graders looking up at him. On the first day, he pulled out a stack of books and placed them on his desk. "These," he said, gesturing to the books, "are more than just paper and ink. They're keys to adventures, lessons, and friendships. And this year, I'm going to show you how they can change your life, just like they changed mine." He introduced a Story of the Month project, where each student chose a book to read and share with the class. Slowly but surely, even the most reluctant readers began to find stories they loved. One day, a boy named Ethan approached Ryan after class. "Mr. Carter," he said, holding up a dog-eared copy of The Hobbit, "I used to think books were boring, but now I think I want to be a writer someday." Ryan smiled, feeling a warmth he couldn't quite describe. "You can be anything you want, Ethan. And if you ever need inspiration, the library is always there." Years turned into decades, and Ryan's passion for reading and teaching never wavered. He became not just a teacher, but a mentor, a guide for countless students who found solace, inspiration, and courage in the stories he introduced them to. But Ryan's story didn't stop with the walls of his classroom. One day, a letter arrived at Ryan's home. It was handwritten, the envelope addressed in neat, careful script. Curious, Ryan opened it and began to read. "Dear Mr. Carter, you may not remember me, but I'll never forget you. My name is Ethan. Yes, the boy who wanted to be a writer. I'm writing to tell you that I finally did it. My first book has been published, and it's all because of you. When I doubted myself, you didn't. When I thought I couldn't, you told me I could. That meant everything to me. Thank you for being the kind of teacher who changes lives." Tears welled up in Ryan's eyes as he held the letter close. Ethan had included a copy of his book, its cover gleaming with pride. Ryan flipped to the dedication and saw his name there. "For Mr. Carter, the man who taught me that words can change the world." The power of sharing. Ethan's letter ignited something new in Ryan. He realized that while his classroom was a powerful space, there were countless others outside its walls who still needed to hear his message about the importance of reading. So Ryan decided to write his own book. It wasn't an easy process. Ryan spent months poring over his notes, writing and rewriting, doubting himself, and then pushing forward. He wanted the book to be more than just his story. It had to be a guide for others, a way to show them how reading could unlock potential they didn't even know they had. The book, titled The Reading Revolution: How Stories Shape Lives, was published the following year. It was a blend of personal anecdotes, stories from his students, and practical advice on how to make reading a habit. To Ryan's surprise, it resonated with people far beyond his small town. A global movement. Ryan's book became a bestseller, and soon he was invited to speak at conferences, schools, and libraries around the world. Everywhere he went, he met people who shared their own reading journeys with him. Parents who read to their children, teenagers who found courage in fantasy novels, and even adults who had rediscovered the joy of books later in life. One of Ryan's most memorable moments came during a trip to a small village in India. The children there had limited access to books, but their hunger for stories was palpable. Ryan partnered with local educators to start a community library, filling its shelves with books from different genres and languages. When the library opened, Ryan watched as the children's faces lit up, their fingers tracing the covers of books they'd never seen before. It reminded him of his first visit to the library all those years ago and the spark it had ignited in him. Passing the torch, Ryan retired from teaching after 4 decades, but his work was far from over. He spent his days volunteering at libraries, mentoring young writers, and even hosting a podcast called The Power of Stories. In every episode, he invited guests to share how reading had shaped their lives, from famous authors to everyday people with extraordinary tales. One day, a familiar face appeared on the podcast. Ethan, now a successful novelist with multiple bestsellers to his name. "Ryan," Ethan said, addressing him directly during the recording, "you didn't just teach me to love reading. You taught me to believe in myself. And because of that, I've tried to do the same for others." Ryan smiled, his heart full. "That's the beauty of reading, Ethan. It's not just a solitary act. It's something we can share, something that creates ripples far beyond what we can see." The legacy lives on. As Ryan looked back on his life, he realized that his journey with reading had been about so much more than just books. It was about connection, connecting with stories, with people, and with the world. Even in his final years, Ryan continued to read, often surrounded by his grandchildren, who loved listening to his animated storytelling. His favorite book remained The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, the one that had started it all. And when Ryan passed away peacefully at the age of 87, he left behind a legacy that would live on in the countless lives he had touched. His students, readers, and listeners carried his message forward. Books are more than stories, they're lifelines, guiding stars, and bridges to a better world. Hello, my dear friends. Continuing with Ryan's story and the journey of discovering the magic of reading, I want to share some genuine tips and tricks to help you understand and embrace the importance of reading in your life. These are not just theoretical ideas, but practical strategies that you can start using today. Each tip comes with detailed examples so you can see how they work in real life. 1. Start with what you love. Reading is much easier when it's something you enjoy. If you're not into heavy novels or academic texts, start with genres or topics that excite you. This makes reading feel less like a chore and more like a fun activity. Example: imagine you love sports. Instead of jumping into classic literature right away, pick up an autobiography of your favorite athlete. For instance, Ryan once recommended Open by Andre Agassi to a student who loved tennis. The student, Sam, wasn't a big reader, but he loved the raw, emotional journey Agassi described. Sam later said, "It didn't feel like I was reading. I felt like I was living his story." If you're into mysteries, start with short stories by authors like Agatha Christie or Arthur Conan Doyle. Over time, you'll naturally want to explore more. 2. Set a reading schedule. Consistency is key to making reading a habit. You don't need to dedicate hours. Even 10 to 15 minutes a day can make a huge difference. Example: Ryan suggested this to his reading club members. He asked them to read for just 10 minutes before bed every night. One of his students, Lily, started this routine. She began with Charlotte's Web and soon found herself reading for 30 minutes without realizing it. "It's like the book pulls you in," she said. By the end of the year, Lily had read 12 books. Tip: use your commute, lunch break, or waiting time to read. Carry a book or use an e-reader app on your phone. 3. Read aloud for better comprehension. Reading aloud can help you understand and remember the content better, especially if you're struggling with complex material or a new language. Example: when Ryan was mentoring Ethan, he noticed Ethan struggled with understanding Shakespeare. Ryan suggested reading aloud, acting out the lines like a play. Ethan found it not only improved his understanding, but also made it fun. He even started enjoying the rhythm and poetry of Shakespeare's language. This tip works for beginners learning English too. Read children's books aloud. They have simple language and engaging illustrations to help you grasp the story. 4. Join a book club or reading community. Reading becomes more meaningful when shared. Discussing books with others helps you see different perspectives and deepens your understanding. Example: remember Ryan's library club? One of the most popular discussions was about the Hunger Games. Different students interpreted Katniss's decisions in unique ways. Some admired her bravery, while others questioned her choices. These discussions sparked debates and allowed everyone to see the story in a new light. If you can't join a physical book club, online forums like Goodreads or Reddit's book communities are excellent alternatives. 5. Annotate and take notes. Interacting with the text helps you retain more information and develop critical thinking skills. Use a highlighter, jot down questions, or write your thoughts in the margins. Example: Ryan taught his students how to annotate by using To Kill a Mockingbird. They highlighted key themes like justice and empathy and wrote their reflections in the margins. For instance, one student, Maya, wrote, "Why does Atticus trust the system when it seems so broken?" This question led to a deeper classroom discussion. If you're reading for personal growth, keep a journal where you summarize chapters or note down quotes that resonate with you. 6. Experiment with different formats. Books come in various formats: physical, digital, and audiobooks. Explore them to find what works best for you. Example: Ryan had a student named Jake who said he didn't have time to read. Ryan suggested trying audiobooks during his gym sessions or while walking to school. Jake started with Harry Potter and soon realized he could read while staying active. Some people prefer e-readers because they're lightweight and let you adjust the font size. Experiment until you find your preference. 7. Set goals and track progress. Having a goal motivates you to keep going. It could be a certain number of books per month or trying a new genre. Example: Ryan's reading club participated in a reading challenge where they aimed to finish 20 books in a year. To keep track, they used a chart in the library. Each time someone finished a book, they added a sticker under their name. Seeing their progress visually motivated everyone to keep reading. For personal tracking, apps like Goodreads let you set reading goals and even share reviews. 8. Create a comfortable reading environment. The right setting can make a big difference in how much you enjoy reading. Find a quiet spot, good lighting, and a comfy chair. Example: Ryan's favorite reading spot as a teenager was under a tree in his backyard. He always said the fresh air and sunlight made the stories feel more alive. Similarly, one of his students created a reading nook in her room with pillows, fairy lights, and a shelf of her favorite books. If you're busy, find a spot where you won't be disturbed, like a cozy corner in a coffee shop or a quiet room in your house. 9. Reflect on what you've read. After finishing a book, take a moment to think about it. What did you learn? Did it change your perspective? Example: After reading The Book Thief, one of Ryan's students, Alex, wrote a letter to the author, Marcus Zusak, explaining how the book made him appreciate his grandparents' stories about World War II. Alex later said that reflecting on the book helped him connect it to his own life in a meaningful way. You don't have to write letters. Simple journaling or talking about the book with a friend can be just as impactful. 10. Don't force it. Take breaks when needed. Reading should be enjoyable, not stressful. If you're not in the mood, it's okay to take a break or switch to a lighter book. Example: Ryan once tried to read War and Peace, but found it overwhelming. Instead of pushing through and hating it, he put it aside and picked up The Alchemist. Months later, he returned to War and Peace with a fresh mindset and appreciated it much more. The key is to listen to yourself and remember that reading is a journey, not a race. The power of sharing. What you read. One of the most underrated aspects of reading is sharing your thoughts and insights with others. When Ryan first started his journey as a mentor, he realized that discussing books opened up deeper understanding, not just for him, but for his students too. For example, after reading 1984 by George Orwell, Ryan led a discussion with his group. At first, most students thought it was just a dystopian novel, but as they shared their interpretations, they began to see the relevance of the book in modern times, issues like surveillance and freedom of expression. Ryan always emphasized, when you talk about a book, you're not just sharing, you're learning from others' perspectives. How you can do this. Start by discussing books with friends or family. For instance, if you've read a motivational book like Atomic Habits, share one habit-building tip you learned and how it's helped you. If you're shy about face-to-face discussions, try writing short reviews online. Many platforms welcome beginner reviewers. Make reading a social bond. Ryan once shared how reading brought him closer to his younger brother, Leo. Leo struggled in school and often felt left out. One summer, Ryan introduced him to graphic novels like Percy Jackson and the Olympians in comic form. They would sit together, read a chapter, and then act out scenes. Over time, Leo's interest grew, and he began reading the full novels on his own. Ryan said, "It wasn't just about reading, it was about bonding." Books became our shared language. How you can do this. If you have a sibling, child, or friend who isn't into reading, start with interactive formats like audiobooks or graphic novels. Organize a small book club in your family. Even reading one short story together can spark meaningful conversations. Use reading as a tool for self-improvement. Ryan always believed that books were his greatest teachers. Whenever he faced challenges, he turned to reading for guidance. For example, when Ryan was preparing for a public speaking competition, he read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. He didn't just read it passively, he applied the techniques like maintaining eye contact and genuinely listening to others. These small changes boosted his confidence and eventually led him to win the competition. How you can do this. Identify areas you want to improve, whether it's communication, leadership, or even cooking, and find books that can guide you. Take notes while reading and apply one lesson at a time. For instance, if you're reading a book on mindfulness, start with just 5 minutes of meditation daily. Read to escape and recharge. Life can be overwhelming, and reading offers a perfect escape. Ryan often shared how books helped him through tough times. After a particularly stressful period at work, he picked up The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. The vivid world of Middle-earth transported him away from his worries and gave him a sense of peace. He told his students, "Sometimes, a story is all you need to remind yourself that life is full of adventures waiting to be discovered." How you can do this. Choose books that match your mood. If you're feeling low, try uplifting stories like The Little Prince. If you're seeking adventure, dive into fantasy novels like Harry Potter. Pair your reading with a calming ritual. Light a candle, make tea, and allow yourself to be fully immersed in the story. Practical application: Ryan's reading routine. To tie everything together, Ryan often shared his personal reading routine as an example for those struggling to make time for books. Morning motivation. Ryan started his day with a short, inspiring passage. He kept books like The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday on his bedside table. "It sets the tone for my day," he explained. Afternoon learning. During lunch breaks, he read nonfiction to learn something new, like Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. Evening escape. Before bed, he read novels or poetry to relax. His favorites included Pride and Prejudice and Collections by Rumi. Example in action. The story of Mia. Let's return to Ryan's reading club to illustrate how these tips helped a real student. Mia was a quiet, reserved girl who avoided group activities. When Ryan introduced her to Anne of Green Gables, she connected deeply with Anne's imaginative and misunderstood character. As Mia read more, she began sharing her thoughts during discussions. She said, "I used to think I was weird for dreaming so much, but Anne showed me it's okay to be yourself." Inspired, Mia started writing her own short stories. By the end of the year, she had written a 50-page story that she shared with the club. Ryan proudly said, "Books didn't just help Mia read, they helped her find her voice." Books as lifelong companions. Ryan shared a personal moment to inspire his listeners further. "I want to tell you about my grandfather. He wasn't a highly educated man, he didn't go to college, but he had a habit of reading a chapter from a book every night. His collection wasn't huge, just a handful of classics, a Bible, and a few local history books. One day, when I was about 10 years old, I asked him, 'Grandpa, why do you always read? You already know all this stuff.' He smiled and said something I'll never forget. 'Ryan, books don't just teach you things, They remind you of who you are and who you can be. He explained that as life changes, the same book can teach you something new. He showed me his old, tattered copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. The first time he read it, he saw it as a story about justice. The second time, years later, he saw it as a lesson in empathy. And when he read it again in his older years, it reminded him of the innocence and kindness we often overlook in our daily lives. Revisiting books. A practical example. Ryan encouraged his group, if you've ever read a book in school and thought it was boring, try reading it again now. You might be surprised how much you missed the first time. He gave an example of Mia, the shy girl from his reading club. After gaining confidence, Mia decided to reread Charlotte's Web. As a child, she remembered it as a story about a pig and a spider. But this time, she realized it was about friendship, sacrifice, and the beauty of ordinary life. Mia later told Ryan, "It's like I grew up with the book, and now it speaks to a different part of me." Takeaway tip. Choose a book you read in your younger years, like a classic from high school. Reflect on how its meaning changes for you now. Expanding horizons through diverse reading. Another powerful point Ryan made was about the importance of reading books from different cultures, genres, and perspectives. He explained, when you read stories from other cultures, you begin to understand how others see the world. It's like traveling without leaving your chair. He shared how reading Things Fall Apart by Chinua Achebe opened his eyes to African traditions and the impact of colonialism. Similarly, reading The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini gave him a deep appreciation for Afghan history and the human cost of war. How you can do this. Start with a genre or author you've never tried. If you usually read romance, try historical fiction. If you're into fantasy, explore memoirs. Look for book recommendations from global authors or communities. Libraries and online forums are great resources for discovering new perspectives. The Habit of Reading, Ryan's Step-by-Step Guide. Ryan realized that for many people, the biggest challenge wasn't finding books, it was making time to read. So he developed a step-by-step guide to build the habit. Start small. Begin with 5 to 10 minutes a day. You don't have to read for hours. Even a single page can make a difference. Set a goal. Ryan advised setting realistic goals, like reading one book a month. It's not about speed, he said. It's about consistency. Create a reading space. Whether it's a cozy corner of your room or a spot in the park, having a designated reading space helps you associate the place with the joy of reading. Use audiobooks. For busy days, Ryan recommended audiobooks. You can listen while commuting, exercising, or even cooking. It's reading for your ears. Track your progress. Ryan shared how he kept a simple journal to jot down what he learned or enjoyed about each book. It's motivating to see how much you've grown over time. The transformative power of stories. An example. One day, a new member joined Ryan's reading group, a young boy named Sam who struggled with anxiety. He was hesitant at first, but Ryan suggested starting with Wonder by R.J. Palacio, a heartfelt story about a boy with facial differences navigating school life. Sam was deeply moved. He said, It felt like the book was talking to me. Augie's bravery made me want to be braver too. Inspired, Sam started reading more and even began writing his own short stories about overcoming challenges. Ryan smiled as he shared this memory with his group, saying, "That's the magic of stories. They don't just entertain, they empower." Books as mirrors and windows. Ryan leaned forward and said, "Let me tell you one last thing that has always stayed with me. Books can be mirrors, and they can be windows. They can show you yourself, and they can let you see into someone else's world." He explained, "When I read The Catcher in the Rye as a teenager, I saw myself in Holden Caulfield, angry, confused, trying to figure out the world. It was a mirror. But when I read The Color Purple by Alice Walker later in life, it became a window into struggles I'd never experienced but deeply empathized with." He gestured to the group. "Think about the last book you read. Was it a mirror or a window? Did it help you understand yourself better, or did it open your eyes to something beyond your experience?" Making reading a journey, not a task. Ryan noticed that many people approach reading as a chore, especially in the age of screens and endless distractions. He said, "We've all been there, starting a book and leaving it halfway because something else grabbed our attention. But reading isn't a task to check off a list, it's a journey to enjoy." He shared a personal story. During his college years, he took up War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. "I won't lie," he chuckled. "It took me months. I read it in short bursts, sometimes putting it down for weeks. But every time I returned to it, I found something new, something profound. By the end, it felt like I had lived 100 lives within those pages." How to enjoy the journey. Pick books that resonate with your current mood or stage in life. If you're feeling adventurous, try epic tales like The Lord of the Rings. If you want something comforting, choose lighthearted reads like Anne of Green Gables. Don't rush. It's okay to read at your own pace, even if it takes you a year to finish a single book. Examples of practical applications of reading. Ryan moved into actionable advice, using relatable examples from his group to illustrate how reading benefits daily life. 1. Building vocabulary and communication skills. He recalled how Sam, the boy with anxiety, grew more confident in speaking after reading Wonder. Sam would jot down words he found interesting and try to use them in conversations. Before long, he wasn't just reading, he was speaking like the characters he admired. How you can do this. Keep a small notebook or use your phone to note down new words. For example, if you read Pride and Prejudice, you might learn words like amiable or ardent. Practice using these words in your daily conversations. 2. Developing empathy. Ryan told them about Lisa, another member of the group, who had trouble connecting with people at work. After reading The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, Lisa found herself deeply moved by the resilience of a girl in unimaginable circumstances. She told me, "It made me realize that everyone has a story, even if they don't share it." Lisa began approaching her colleagues with more understanding, and her relationships improved. How you can do this. Choose books that explore different lives and struggles. Memoirs like Educated by Tara Westover or Becoming by Michelle Obama are great places to start. Reflect on what the characters might teach you about your own interactions with people. 3. Solving real-life problems. Ryan shared his own example of learning financial discipline through books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I wasn't great with money in my early 20s, but that book taught me how to think about assets and liabilities. It changed the way I managed my finances. How you can do this. Identify areas in your life where you need guidance.